Okay. What's everyone's record?
We're all 1-0.
We're all to know.
Oh, okay. Ooh, I'm tied with you guys. No, I'm one. I'm. Oh wait, no. I forfeited one match. And then I got a victory over Woodburn. Should have been a knockout.
I agree.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, start. Okay, I'll start this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this triple threat of movie Battleground between three great competitors who are all 1-0, looking, as they say, one of these holes have to go. Well, I guess in this case, two of them will. One person will move up to 2-0. But of course, you all know me as I'm Harley Borch, the editor from Full Metal Media, but I was asked to help step in and judge. So here I am. I'm being thrown to the wolves on this one. My first ever judging match. I hope I don't screw it up too much. But first, let's take it over to Jen Kemp, the meme queen herself. How are you feeling today?
I'm excited to get back in the ring. It's been a long time. I've had a couple matches that got canceled, delayed, whatever. So I'm happy to be back, and you're gonna do fine, Harley. You'll be fine.
Thanks, I appreciate the confidence there. And now let's take it over to the host of Jukebox Trivia himself, the Black Lantern, Brooklyn, my fellow Canadian, Vail. How are you doing today, buddy?
We're doing good. We're doing good. In my debut, I got to take on my rival, one half of Team Spartacus. I defeated her in a score of 4-2. Now I get to take on the other half, Spartacus, and then I'm predicting a win for Atomic Nation here.
Yeah, it seems like you definitely can't avoid these two right now. Let's take it over to the one of the admin and one of the hosts of Movie Battleground. But he decided to compete tonight. Matt, here, how are you today, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. I am so excited to get into this ring because I am garbage at trivia. I am horrible at it. But one thing I'm good at is debating. I can just bullshit my way out of anything. And I can't wait to do it here tonight. I'm very curious to see how well I do against Jen and Brooklyn. But I am very confident. Let's get this started.
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's get this started. Okay. Let's pause this right here. Just let me.
That's fine.
Because I forgot I need to get a timer and all that, so I gotta get that set up. Okay. Okay. Okay, so Matt, how exactly does this work again?
As far as who goes first, I believe Jen has the option to choose what questions she wants to go first on because she's ahead by like 1 point on me and Brooklyn, and me and Brooklyn are tied as far as Aaron's point system, which is confusing, but it's all good. So she can choose.
So how does that work? So Jen can choose if she does on any of the questions that she wants to go first on. Like she can choose to go like first on question number 3.
She could choose. She can choose like any 2 of the 5 questions, and then either me or Brooklyn will choose 2, and then the other one gets stuck with 1. But I'm okay either way.
Off with each, I guess, until Jen uses her 2 questions or 2 choices to go first. I'd start off with her. Jen, would you like to start off this debate?
I don't want to go first on the first one.
Okay, okay, I'll keep that in mind, and I'll just pitch it over to you guys. And but like when it comes
Yeah.
to timing, how does that work? Like again,
When each round begins and whoever goes first starts talking and then the others go after, they have as much time as they want, but we would prefer it to be as concise as possible. That way we don't have 5 minutes of explaining why in the
so
opening before we even get into it, because Jeremy actually did do that once.
I believe that.
So, so that's one, and then after everybody gives their choice and their reasons why, then we'll have 5 minutes to debate it out, and then everybody has as much time to close it out. But again, try to keep it as concise as possible and just summarize it, I guess would be the best term to use.
Okay.
So
I guess if you can just help guide me along when it comes to like the
yeah, I
guide
can do it.
match, preferable. Okay, so okay, we'll start off. We'll start off right here, right now. Okay. So,
Okay.
your question one, everyone, was what Star Wars character from any part of the canon should get their own Star Wars story? And Jen's told me that she doesn't want to start off first with this one, so I'll toss it over to Brooklyn and Matt. Which one of you two would like to go first?
I will hand it off to Matt.
Okay.
All right, here we go. I get stuck with it, and that's okay because I love Star Wars. So I love Star Wars. I'm pretty sure you guys at least like Star Wars. Maybe not the fan community at this point in time, but the films, we all at least somewhat like one or two of them. And if you don't, that's okay. I'm not going to judge on that. But there's one character that everybody has loved so much, even in the horrible films, that they want to see their own standalone film. We didn't want Han Solo. That's why Han Solo is failing, along with the people who didn't like Last Jedi. But we have always wanted a Obi-Wan Kenobi movie. Obi-Wan Kenobi from episode 3 to episode 4. Specifically, we don't want baby Obi. We want from episode 3 to episode 4, somewhere in that timeline. There's a lot of really cool villains. They could take that arc. Spoiler alert for Solo. Cover your ears if you haven't seen the movie. And that's probably a lot of you guys. But Darth Maul is in the end of Solo. Then they were clearly setting something up, and they could finish that in an Obi-Wan movie. Plus, there's many, many other villains. There's rumors that Thrawn could be in it. So you have a bunch of great villains in that time that they could use. Plus, you can also expand on Ewan McGregor's, character that he's portrayed as Obi-Wan. People love that, even in the prequels. This is something I could connect the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy and the new films too, and maybe even fix the fandom. So I'm going to go with the Obi-Wan, and I'll explain why after they explain. And it can't be as bad as me. So.
Okay, Jen, would you like to start off now or pass it over to Brooklyn?
I'll pass over to Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, go ahead.
All right, so Harley. So while my first opponent goes with a hero, a good guy, and while my second opponent will go with someone who's kind of in between, I'm going with a character who invokes the Empire and the dark side, a film that isn't needed by the fans and is a breath of fresh air for the franchise. I have went with the great Grand Moff Tarkin as a basis for this movie. Tarkin has provoked a sense of mystery throughout the saga, and he is very intelligent, very collected throughout the warfare throughout the universe. Where you see Darth Vader Vader and Kylo Ren, where they had emotional responses. Grand Moff Tarkin was very collected and very calm. This film would benefit from the Star Wars universe because there isn't a lot of lore about him. There is one book, and that's about it really. So casual fans and hardcore fans and a bit of hardcore fans don't know a lot about him. So there wouldn't be any preconceived notions as to how they want the film to be. Similar to the success of Guardians of the Galaxy, this film would thrive off of the unknown and the speculation.
Thank you. And now Jen, unfortunately, you can't pass it off any further. Let's hear your option.
Okay, so my pick would be, I think one of the major problems with the Star Wars universe right now, as it is as a fandom, is there's a lot of complaints about being too brash, but for me, it's really too much repetition. I'm getting very sick of seeing the same characters over and over. I'm not a big fan of the Star Wars stories as a practice in general. However, if I were forced, as I am right now, to pick someone for their own Star Wars story, I would go with someone who is fairly new to the fandom, and that would be Rogue One's Cassian Andor, played by the lovely Diego Luna. It's not because of him. But anyway, Cassian Andor, he is someone that is very different in the Star Wars universe because he is, when you boil it down, he's basically a spy for the Rebel Alliance. So he is, I know there's probably going to be some jabs later on that it would be similar to like kind of what the Solo story was trying to do here, because this would be a story about what is happening within the rebellion. However, unlike Han Solo, Cassian Andor is someone who has always been fighting for the right side for the right reasons. However, the way he goes about it is technically not always clean and squeaky like you would usually get out of a Skywalker. So you would get Cassian Andor, a of color, which we have never had be the main focal point of one of these Star Wars films. However, he's also familiar because we have also been introduced to him in a Rogue. One of my favorite things from Rogue One was K2SO. You cannot keep a good Alan Tudyk down. So that would definitely involve Cassian and K2SO on some kind of interesting romp through rebellion, doing some kind of super secret covert operation. Not a heist, a covert operation against the Empire, and that means that we could probably skim through some familiar things, but we don't have to be seeing all these familiar characters over and over again. We'd like to see more of people on the ground, which I think really still hasn't been done in the Star Wars universe. So if we are going to keep branching off into these weird little one-offs, which I do consider these Star Wars stories a one-off, I think it would be interesting to do something that really hasn't been done before.
Okay. Great opening arguments and selections by all three competitors. Okay, for the main part, it's 5 minutes, right, man?
Yeah, it's 5 minutes. And can you guys hear me well? Is the
Yeah.
background noise kind of messing with my
I'm going to
voice?
apologize in advance if it sounds like I'm cutting people off because I usually have a delay. So if it sounds like I'm just randomly cutting you off, that's what's happening.
That's fine.
No, it's fine. I was outside doing it, but it's raining, and I don't want to be out in the wet. So if noise is kind of picking up on my end, I do apologize for that.
Okay. Oh yeah. So it's
Yeah.
5 minutes, and it just whoever starts, and 5 minutes of all three people battling it out.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So with the main part of question one right now, you guys, it's a 5 minute battle royale. Tell me why your choices would make a better solo film. Pun not intended there. Solo film for Star Wars. Star Wars story. So your time will start in 3, 2, 1, start.
All right, so
Okay,
let's start
Brooklyn,
off
we're
with
going to start
Obi-Wan
with you,
Kenobi.
okay?
All right.
We're going to start with you. We're going to start with Brooklyn. You chose Tarkin, which, yeah, he's kind of cool in
I have a
episode 4,
question
but
about
he's a
Tarkin.
very...
Are we looking at young Tarkin or
Yeah, are we going baby
old
Tarkin? Or are we
Tarkin?
going...
We're exploring the origins of Tarkin, where he went from Moff to Grand Moff. You could easily explore his relationships with the Emperor and Darth Vader and whatnot. There's actually a great novel called Tarkin that is written that is considered canon, which would be a great source material for the movie. Let's get to your characters now.
So you're pitching a Star Wars film that is about a pencil pusher that is pushing his way up the corporate ladder. That's basically what this movie would be, because he is not entirely interesting as a character. He's a villainous force. And I don't even know what we're going to go for age-wise on actors, because we're definitely not using the CGI again after Rogue One. But I don't see how you can get an audience to root for him. Like they'll go, "Oh, I know him," but how do you base an entire movie around him?
You're not looking to root for the Empire though. And when you look at the Empire in itself, and you look at the movies that have portrayed the Empire, they don't delve into the origin, and there's a gap missing between Episode 3 and 4, where with the exception of Rogue One, where they have like plans for the Death Star, they don't explore how people got into the business that they are, how those relationships got built. When you look at how Grand Moff Tarkin is important throughout the series, he is essentially the glue between the Emperor, Darth Vader, Darth Sidious, and a fan favorite Grand Admiral Thrawn through the Rebel series. So if you were to have the movie with Grand Moff Tarkin, you would get these chances to see all of these villains kind of reprised. And
you get to see all these villains that we've been seeing in every single Star Wars film.
But you get to build on the chemistry more so than just having a cameo, where we've seen that in Solo.
They're the villains. At its core, Star Wars, it is a melodrama. You don't really need the facets of the evil side. It is the dark side for a reason.
Yeah.
Like it's Tarkin is. He didn't get his way by doing anything interesting. He just followed the rules.
What have the best villains been throughout history, though? Villains that have been drawn out. For your character, Cassian
Darth
Andor,
Vader, who you're going to bring back again and kill it again.
But also, you're choosing the most generic. You're choosing one of the most generic characters you could possibly make on a Star Wars movie. We don't want to see Grand Moff Tarkin start out as this inspiring, I want to be something one day in the Empire type of character. We don't want to see that. We want to see something that can actually give us some interesting beats, which is what Obi-Wan could give us. Grand Moff Tarkin would just be a generic.
Obi-Wan, we've already gotten all the beats from Obi-Wan. If you want to get more beats, go watch Clone Wars, go watch Rebels. We've had enough of him.
So much more you can explore with them, though, between 30 years.
Great. But he's had his chance.
The same reason that we're not giving Obi-Wan Kenobi a movie is the same reason we're not giving Luke Skywalker a movie, or we're delving into the time that he was on the island. What do you want to do? You want to watch a movie of Obi-Wan just sitting in a desert? Essentially,
I mean, it's common. I mean, Obi-Wan's very common anyway.
That's what essentially
that doesn't make it right.
He appeared in Clone Wars a little bit.
That's what people want.
But to get to Cassian Andor, you are right that it is essentially a second-grade version of Han Solo. We don't want that, and everybody's preconceived notion. But
I made this take before Solo came out, so I didn't know what Solo was going to do. But anyway, Cassian Andor as a film, it would be the Bourne Identity in space with Julia Stiles as K2SO. So it would be something completely different. It would be a spy thriller in space, completely different from what Solo was, which was just kind of retreading over little things. And so it would be fun because we do have Alan Tudyk. It's going to be really funny. And we have Cassian Andor with Diego Luna, and he knows that he can hold that emotional weight while also having a little charm to him, having some fun. So we can pull in new characters.
Isn't that the exact same thing Solo's doing?
No, because Han Solo was barely about Solo.
Speaking of Solo, what you're pitching, Brooklyn, is the exact same thing as Solo, except it's the opposite side. Do we really want to see somebody rising up from their beginnings to where they go now? Do we really want to see that? I don't.
What's the one thing about Star Wars that has yet to be explored in depth as much as the Rebels and the Force, the Empire, the
people on the ground,
Empire, how they got there? No, but to get back to Cassian Andor's point, like I've been trying to get to the last couple times. You mentioned how that's going to be. Oh yeah, we're going to bring in the humor of K2SO. We're going to have the charm of these people. Solo did the exact same thing. You brought in Donald Glover as fucking Lando Calrissian. You brought in what's her name?
They barely used him. They're going to learn from the missteps in Solo, and they know how to pull it all together now.
And also, let's go with Cassian Andor. I mean, Rogue One isn't that below. Oh,
been past 5 minutes.
Oh.
So, and for closing how does closing arguments work, Matt?
We just summarize our argument, throw in some final points.
Is there a time frame?
No.
Okay.
But we do ask for it to be as concise as possible.
Okay, so I'll aim for about 4-ish minutes, I guess.
That seems fair.
I don't think we even need that much, yeah.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Okay, so and started now. Closing arguments, everyone.
Oh, it's just one. Like, let's say Brooklyn goes, he'll give his closing, and then Jen would go, and then I would go, or whatever order. Okay. I think I went first, so it would be me.
Yeah, we'll let Matt go first. You went first at the beginning.
Okay. So I didn't get to really talk a lot about the benefits of Obi-Wan Kenobi and why his movie would be the best choice out of all these options. For one, there's so many great villains, whether from the movies or the novels and the comics, comics, also the cartoon shows that you could pull in that is in this time frame between Revenge of the Sith and then A New Hope. This could add a Logan-style movie as well, which is something different for Star Wars, which would be really cool, where you get an older Obi-Wan Kenobi. Maybe he's watching over Luke, and then he has to stop this gangster underground or whatever, and you could see that awesome fight between Maul and Obi-Wan Kenobi that was in Rebels when they fought once again. You could have that in live action, and you can expand on that and add more to the fight, which could be really, really gorgeous to watch on screen. And then we have Tarkin. Tarkin is basically Han Solo, but on the other side. But it would be a lot more boring. We don't need to see that in the Star Wars universe. You tried with Rogue One. While Rogue One was good, especially the third act, when they try to do these war, more gritty themes, it doesn't really work out. And then with Cassian, right? Yeah, Cassian, your choice, Jen, his name. He's a very forgettable character in the movie when it's... Diego Luna. It's not a very well-known character. He's a one-dimensional character. I don't want to see that on the big screen. That does not help. It might have a little more fun. It would be more like a Solo-type movie, as Brooklyn said. However, we've seen that before once again with Solo, and we know how well that does in the box office. Tarkin's not going to bring in everybody together, and it's not going to fix the fandom. Neither will Cassian's movie. Obi-Wan Kenobi will bring the prequel fans, the original fans, and the newer trilogy fans and the Disney Star Wars fans all together, because this is the movie that everybody has been wanting since they announced they're going to be doing spin-off movies. This is the one, Obi-Wan Kenobi, for the win.
Okay,
That's
thank
it.
you, Matt. And Brooklyn, since you went second at the beginning, you'll go second right now.
While my opponent is stuck on almost this nostalgia where we have seen him previously through numbers of films, the prequels, the originals, and the Clone Wars, mine explores a realm of the universe that has yet to see the depth of the Rebels, and that is in Grand Moff Tarkin. I've also mentioned source material and to where my film can be based off of. You have that great Tarkin novel that not a lot of people have read, so. Similar to Solo, how Solo and Last Jedi had been ruined, there was preconceived notions on how the film was going to be, and if the film didn't go that way, fans were reasonably pissed off. With the Tarkin film, there's a mystery to it. There's speculation. There is not these ideas that need to absolutely be in place. Cassian Andor, the thing that I get to there. It's just a reboot of Solo. The similar things. You call it a spy thriller when it's really just gonna be a heist film with a comic relief in K2SO. And you mentioned earlier in your opening statement this would be the first character of color. John Boyega, Finn. That doesn't count at all for the.
He's not the lead.
I rest my case.
Okay, thank you, Brooklyn. And now, Jen, we'll go over to you for your closing arguments.
So yeah, basically, the main problem with the Star Wars universe right now is that it's getting tired. Because they keep going back to the same wells over and over again, and that is creating more and more tension within the fan base as people get tired because they have certain notions of they want to see Obi-Wan do this, they want to see Solo do this, and when it doesn't happen, it gets backlash. So the best way to move forward is to create more routes of storylines here. And while a Tarkin movie would, I guess, do that, I have no idea what the plot would be, because this would basically, the Empire works as a series of board meetings. Like, it's I don't know what kind of action you're going to get out of that. It's just and seeing Vader another time in another movie, I think just we're all going to start rolling our eyes, because you're just feeding him back into storylines because you want people to go, oh, and go buy another Vader t-shirt. But Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor, he's a great guy, but we have enough. You've said it. We have all this source material. If you really want to see an Obi-Wan thing, go watch Clone Wars, go watch Rebels, go read a book, like, because it's just another painful reminder of the prequels past. And Cassian Andor, while not being a huge figurehead, I think that actually works to his benefit, because it is someone that you recognize, but it allows you to go into a different area of the Star Wars lore that we haven't really explored too much. Yes, Solo was a heist movie, but Cassian Andor, he's not a rogue whatever we want to, a nerf herder. He is a trained assassin spy that has very interesting morals, because as we saw in Rogue One, he has his system of networks of informants, but he can turn on a dime if it knows that this is for the betterment of the rebellion. And this is, while Rogue One was a war movie, this would be something that's more on the lines of his normal day-to-day work, because that's all about just getting the plans of the Death Star. This would be more about foiling the just everyday plots of the Empire. So if you want to see more of the Empire, you would see it in a Cassian Andor movie, and you would be rooting for someone to go up against it. I don't know how you root for a Tarkin movie, because I don't know what would be in it, but Obi-Wan is tired, Tarkin is just kind of there, and Cassian is someone that you can root for, and you can have adventure, have fun, do have interesting dimensions to him, because he is a conflicted hero. And you get K2SO, who everybody likes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your debate in there. With that, some of the points, like Matt, you with Obi-Wan, for the most part, it seemed like you really wanted it to take place in between episodes 3 and 4, and have it a little bit of a like the film Logan, but just like one of the things, you basically, as your competitors were talking about, like for for the most part, he doesn't really leave on Tatooine, and it's going to be in the desert. Like a lot of his story has been told, and we, as Brooklyn and Jen have, what we're both were saying, like there's there's a lot that has been told about Obi-Wan. And also, you're bringing up Obi-Wan versus Maul. Fact check, as for like a fact check, Darth Maul basically hasn't seen Obi-Wan since at the time period in the Clone Wars until the very end of season 4 in Rebels, when they had that extremely quick fight.
Yeah.
So there's not much. There's not much to actually tell in that story point there, because like if anyone saw Rebels, Darth Maul didn't even know that Obi-Wan was still alive
Right.
until they
That's what I
had
was
that.
talking about. That fight is what I was saying.
Yeah, I don't. I think in that episode, like it was just there's not much more you can really tell or go into
Right.
that. And Brooklyn, with Tarkin, you brought up a lot about how there's he's the connecting tissue for also for the period. It can be a little bit of a period in between episodes 3 and 4 as well. And we were talking about the novel, which does cover a fair it does cover a fair amount of his youth, and leading up to his Grand Moff appointment. So like there's that, but there is a period that you were talking about, like that novel doesn't really go into. There's like a 12-year period, which, but it just like Jen was afraid of who you'd cast for him, and she was afraid that there would be too much the bad CGI, which unfortunately you weren't able to. You didn't really talk about who you're casting for it, and but it just like Matt was bringing up how he was generic, but also how you're talking about how like there's a lot more you can go into when it comes to Tarkin. Like Tarkin is an actually very interesting and important character when it comes to this, the story. There was a lot of points that you brought up that I did like, and there's a of course, like we've seen Tarkin in Clone Wars. Tarkin, of course, was in Rebels, but unfortunately, those weren't really talked about. So, but it just like you did defend yourself pretty good when Matt and Jen were talking about how it'll be boring, but also you did focus a lot on how an aspect that Star Wars doesn't really go too much into, like the villain side, and Star Wars is also the villains are very important, as are the good characters. And Jen, you started off by saying like there's too much like repeating when it comes to like it's not really expanding. Like we're all we're focused on is the current characters and all this that we knew when you talked about Cassian. And one of your main points was it would be like a kind of like a buddy cop spy film with Cassian and K2SO. But unfortunately, Matt and Brooklyn were both hitting you pretty hard when it comes to it's basically rebooting the solo film, and it's basically you can replace smuggler with spy, and how a lot of ways it'll be the same film. And of course, they brought up how the negative press or like the association that comes with solo at the moment. Um, unfortunately I don't think you had too much a factor in this one, Jen, when it comes to your character. It definitely came down to Brooklyn and Matt, but for a lot of the time, you guys both were arguing against Grand Moff Tarkin. But and I feel Brooklyn was doing a pretty adequate case of defending himself, and was created more and more stuff that you can do with that. While both Matt and Jen, you guys were singly staying put with just like that time period, and it just like not really going into too much detail of what. So I think I'm gonna have to give round one to Brooklyn on this one.
All right.
As someone who's a big Star Wars fan, and on a side note, I know that. Yeah, trust me, I didn't take this into a factor, but Tarkin would have been with everything that was said there. Like Tarkin would have been my choice. Okay, now let's go to question number two. Question number two is pitch Sherlock Holmes 3. Give me a director, someone besides Guy Ritchie, as he's the easiest pick. Co-leads besides RDJ, or Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law, and basic plot. Jen, would you like to go first with this one since you have the most points, or would you like to defer?
I'll pass it off.
Okay. Now, so Matt, since you went first last time, I'm going to pass it off. I'm going to ask Brooklyn if he'd like to go first or defer.
I will go first on this one.
Okay. Go ahead.
Alrighty, so Sherlock Holmes, A Game's Afoot. This would be the third film in the Sherlock Holmes franchise. And the unfortunate instance that we can't get Guy Ritchie, we would get the next best person when it comes to buddy dialogue and just the aspect of Sherlock Holmes and Watson. That would be Edgar Wright. He would be great to get that kind of quirky essence. He's also great with music. Sherlock Holmes has a great score by Hans Zimmer, so he'd be able to mix it in very well with this interpretation of the franchise. The villain in this film would be John Hamm. John Hamm would be playing Jack the Ripper. This has been used before in Sherlock Holmes lore, so it would be great to see Jack the Ripper being interpreted in something that we haven't seen in quite a while. The other person that I would bring in as well to this cast would be Tessa Thompson. She's been great in films like Thor Ragnarok, and she would give this great kind of charm, sort of badass, similar to how Rachel McAdams is with the character of Irene Adler. And Tessa Thompson would be, because Jack the Ripper killed prostitutes essentially. Tessa Thompson would be a prostitute-esque character with some sort of tie to Irene Adler, most likely a classmate or a friend of some sort.
Okay, thank you, Brooklyn, with that. And Jen, I'll ask you again. Would you like to go next or pass it off to Matt?
I'll go next. That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm blown away by that choice. I don't know. Anyway, for my pick for Sherlock Holmes 3, I guess we're calling it, I would have for director, I would go with Kenneth Branagh after his very intricate version of remake of The Murder on the Orient Express, which is another murder mystery, very similar to the Sherlock Holmesian kinds of beats to it. However, we have also seen that with Thor, that Kenneth Branagh is really good about. He's actually very good at shooting action sequences as well, which is one of the new staples of this new Robert Downey Jr. Jude Law kind of franchise here. So I think he would be the best of both worlds because he is kind of an actor's director. He's really capable of pulling out these amazing performances from his actors. And when it comes to Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law, it's all about the dialogue between the two of them. It's the camaraderie. So I think that Kenneth Branagh would be a great choice to keep that kind of camaraderie flowing in another story here. In terms of what I'm actually looking for in my story, I would base a large amount of the plot on one of the classic Sherlock Holmes stories, The Speckled Band. If you're not familiar with The Speckled Band, it's basically it's okay. Well, I'll introduce my people because it's easier that way. But I would cast Annabelle Wallis. If you don't know her, she was in the one of my favorite shows, Peaky Blinders. She's also appeared in some random roles recently. She's a British actress. She's phenomenal, and she has a really good. She's beautiful, obviously, because she's in Hollywood. But she also has a really strong wit to her and a really strong presence that I think would gel well with Law and Downey Jr. And she would be playing this woman, Miss Stoner, who she comes to Holmes to try to help solve the murder of her sister. And she basically she suspects that her stepfather was the murderer, and the stepfather would be played by the great Mads Mikkelsen. Who doesn't like seeing Mads Mikkelsen? But basically, my storyline, it follows Sherlock Holmes and Jude Law. They go and kind of inspect this. He's kind of this very eccentric lord that he's very interesting. Basically, he has there's a baboon and a cheetah that are roaming his very large estates. But basically, my story would be following this investigation of how her sister was murdered, and then also she worries that her life is also in danger. And if you haven't read the story or whatever, I would change the ending because I'm going to spoil it for you. So basically, the Speckled Band is the murder was in the book. The murder was done by the stepfather by using this through the vents and stuff and poison the sister. However, through the series of events and everything, it would be revealed in my movie that Annabelle Wallis is actually the one that is behind the murders because she wants to get the inheritance all for herself. So basically, there's a lot of basically this is a very heavy dialogue movie because that is really where the Sherlock Holmes movies for me really stood out because Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law have a great rapport and they're really good about the quick dialogue, and Kenneth Branagh is really good at capturing that. And with these new characters, Annabelle Wallis can kind of be used as a bit of a lure for Jude Law, who is coming out of his he's not coming out of, he's in the middle of his rather boring marriage to, I forget her name because it's not really important in these movies. So she's kind of a lure of things past. Meanwhile, Sherlock Holmes, Robert Downey Jr., would be having this kind of existential crisis in seeing his comparisons with the Mads Mikkelsen character because he's someone that is very alone in this world, and that is someone that Holmes would kind of reflect in himself because he's always pushing people away. So it's kind of one of those seeing the good in the dark within yourself by looking at the people you're investigating. So it'd be a very intricate investigation, and basically Kenneth Branagh, I think, is really good about getting just the details down cinematography wise and acting wise. He is one of the better directors of performances, and I think that's where this series needs to continue to go. If it's going to continue as a franchise, it's something that they need to have more strong plots that they need to focus on, and that would be using ones that are already there from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So rather than go off in weird CGI adventures that happened in the second film that kind of fell to the wayside. It's really focused on the characters.
Okay, thank you, Jen. And now let's go over to Matt.
Okay, so Sherlock Holmes 3. This is my pitch. So, obviously, in this scenario, we don't have what's his face directing the movie anymore. He's gone. Let's just say he doesn't do it anymore. I can't think of his name, but he has this unique.
Guy Ritchie.
Guy Ritchie, there we go. He did King Arthur. He's kicked out of the business because of that movie. So he has his own style. It's a unique style that works for Sherlock Holmes. However, you can't replicate that style. You got to have your own style that's about as crazy as what it is that would fit in the Sherlock Holmes universe. So my Sherlock Holmes 3 movie is going to be directed by Matthew Vaughn. Now you might wonder, he did Kingsman too. Yeah, he did his sequel. But we've seen that he's been able to carry on a franchise or a trilogy and do a great job with X-Men First Class and many other films. We can see he does the action very well. He has the witty humor in it. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to separate itself from Guy Ritchie. It's going to feel like its own thing while also feeling like it belongs in this trilogy. As far as what my movie is going to center around, it's going to center around one of, if not the most famous story or the most beloved story, and that's the Hounds of Baskerville. I believe that's how you pronounce that last name. It's one of the big ones. Basically, there's, what's their last name? There's a family that's been attacked by these hounds. They're like demon hounds. Baskerville. That's what they are. That's their name. I thought that was a city. It's not. So, anyway, so you have these hounds. They attack this, family and all this good stuff. And Charles Baskerville is going to be played by Leonardo DiCaprio. However, it's going to be revealed at the end that he's really the villain of the movie, and him, Sherlock, are going to have to go at it. We're also going to have Margot Robbie, who's super talented. She's going to play the love interest, but she's going to be able to carry her own. And then we're also going to introduce Dylan O'Brien as the guy who could carry on after Sherlock decides to retire. But we're going to expect Robert Downey Jr. to return. I believe the story also, and how it would fit, it starts off with Sherlock Holmes dead. And that's how the last one ended, where we know he's alive, but not everybody else does. Watson doesn't know if he's alive for sure or not, but it obviously shows I'm alive. So, yeah, there is my pitch.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. And now we'll start the 5-minute round 2. Starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, start.
All right. I didn't realize we had like 6 minutes to go in our opening pitches. Otherwise, I thought it would a little bit more in depth. The reason why Edgar Wright works so well in this scenario is because he has delved into the buddy dialogue scenario well with the Cornetto trilogy and Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Also with John Hamm in the role of Jack the Ripper. You've seen in the previous films with Mark Strong as Blackwood and Ed Tolpo as Professor Moriarty. The villains have been around the same age as Sherlock Holmes, so it is very much so an intellectual battle and a battle of the minds. John Hamm's role especially, you would more so hear him for about 2/3 of the movie, and you'd really only see him for 10 minutes. It would be sort of this big reveal, because you would be able to hide him in this British accent. You wouldn't have him build leading up to it. It would be this reveal similar to how Matt Damon was treated in Interstellar, and I think that would work out well. The problems that I have with Jen's movie first, Kenneth Branagh is well, although a great director, is more so known for a grand scheme, very Shakespearean style, where if you were to condense it down, I feel like it would just be
which is a lot. Shakespearean style is a lot more close to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle than Edgar Wright is. Edgar Wright is a very modern. But dialogue only works because it used modern euphemism.
But if you're
John Hamm is a great actor. He's not British, okay? I don't remember a Jack the Ripper story. By the way, I've read all the Sherlock Holmes books. I never remember that. But my problem with Edgar Wright, he is a British director. I'm sure he appreciates Sherlock Holmes, but that is a territory that he's never gone into, because he is someone that likes to do original content, and this is a property that you need to know your history in. And Kenneth Branagh is someone who he appreciates the originality of the content, so he would really bring out the true feeling of the story. Hound of Baskerville, I really like the story of Hound of Baskervilles, and it's been done on film at least 5 times, okay? This is a story that I think everyone knows the ending to, whether or not you've seen it. So Matthew Vaughn, I think that would go more down like the hokey route. I don't know how much gravitas he's going to bring to a very classic story. And the Hound of Baskerville, there's not a lot going on in that story, actually. Like, it's really, they go down and they see it, and that's it.
I mean, it sounds very similar to what you're pitching if there's not a whole lot, because, you know, you're going to have the opportunity to have a lot of the dialogue. It's going to be witty. We know Matthew Vaughn. We know he can carry on a franchise. We've seen... Matthew
Vaughn is more known for his action sequences and his modern dialogue. So Kenneth Branagh is known for the historical dialogue and actually making those...
But if you're basing the
sweeping and encompassing,
if you're basing the success off of Kenneth Branagh and the Murder of the Orient Express, there's multiple people where stories are intertwined. If you were to bring in Kenneth Branagh and just have him focus on really 2 or 3 people, 4 people. 4 people. It would get nitpicked to the point where you're overcorrecting yourself and whatnot. Matt, with your film, Leonardo DiCaprio and Margot Robbie are going to overshadow your film and whatnot. Jen, to get back to a point that you mentioned, Edgar Wright doesn't do original films.
I don't think they'll overshadow it. Let's look at Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. was Iron Man, and then we had Sherlock Holmes, and Sherlock Holmes was not overshadowed by Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law. They're very, very well-known actors. And to piggyback on the Kenneth Branagh thing, we've seen what he's done with these, you know, Sherlock Holmes type movies. Murder on the Orient Express is different, obviously, but it has that same feeling. And Murder on the Orient Express is not good.
That has really strong action, but also emotional characters. No, it's actually really similar, because the dynamic between Loki and Thor is actually very similar to the Jude Law and Robert Downey Jr. as it goes. Because
essentially, you'd have your villain turn hero, villain, hero, villain. That's essentially what you're trying to go with. If you're basing it off of Thor, then that's essentially what you want to do.
I'm not basing it off of Thor. I was just saying that he's shown the kind of handle on this dynamic that he's had before. The main motivations here is looking at Jude Law and Robert Downey Jr., their relationship, and the way that they view themselves in looking into this case, because they are looking into people that are drawing them in certain directions. So you would be suspecting Mads Mikkelsen, who is excellent at being very villainous. You would be suspecting him the entire time, and then the big twist at the end would be that it's actually Annabelle Wallis is the one that has created this grand scheme to kind of draw them out here and create that big whammy at the end. Because if we're going to be doing these stories over and over again, we need to change them up a little bit. Hound of Baskerville, we've done it at least 5 times, and I don't know what Matthew Vaughn can bring to the table that hasn't already been shown.
Also,
we've done other types of stories multiple times. Okay, fine, you go.
The point that you bring up about bringing in Dylan O'Brien to continue this trilogy this saga does not need to continue. Like great trilogies that before us, it can stop at 3. It can be a great trilogy on its own. If they want to reboot it and bring in Dylan O'Brien in a later film or a different direction, by all means. But you don't need to continue off and potentially ruin the franchise by bringing in.
But here's the thing: Dylan O'Brien's gonna be playing a different character. This could spawn off to a new character with new stories, which could bring more opportunities for other people. Dylan O'Brien's also proven he's a fantastic actor. Margot Robbie is a fantastic actress, but she doesn't overshadow every movie she's in. Leonardo DiCaprio has proven he can be a great villain. He's not going to start out as the villain, of course, because they're thinking he's a good guy, they're helping him out, but then it's going to reveal at the end, you can have this big twist that, boom, Leonardo DiCaprio is also a villain. But you guys also have not shown what's the reaction going to be with Sherlock revealing himself alive. You have not shown that. Sherlock died in the second one, and then he comes back to life, of course, at the end, but nobody knows he's alive. You guys have yet done that. I've shown you this story.
Obviously, will be a part of the introduction of the film, but like I'm talking about the main.
It's almost expected at this point.
I didn't know we have to give the entire scenes of every single.
It's almost
but the Hounds of Baskerville or whatever starts out with Sherlock dead in the original book, and then in the original book, in the original book he starts off dead. Yeah, but here's the thing: we've had many movies that are very similar or the same story in a sense as other movies, but that doesn't mean you can improve on it or make it even better or make it the best possible.
Stop. That was, yeah, sorry, I got engrossed in that. Sorry about that. That went on a little too long. But yeah, okay, that's the end of round two. Um, okay, we'll go now into your closing arguments. We started off with Brooklyn first time there. Brooklyn, please give me us your closing argument.
So while my opponent and Matt is really relying on Leonardo DiCaprio and Margot Robbie, where their villains can almost overshadow Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law, who should be the stars of this film, and Jen, who while Kenneth Branagh is a great director, I just think it has too grand. Where everything would almost be too big and everything would be too vague. My film, you're bringing in Edgar Wright, who does have an appreciation for the British culture, the British film. You would bring in John Hamm. Well, yes, he is American, but actors can do accents. I mean, you look at somebody like you look at American actors doing British accents. Exactly. Like it doesn't. It creates, but it creates, it creates elements of surprise.
Rachel McAdams is from my hometown of London, Ontario.
She's from Canada, but again, it just because you're American and just because you're Canadian doesn't mean that you can't do a British accent and vice versa. With John Hamm as the villain, it would create this great reveal and this great surprise because when you initially hear the British accent in my film, you're initially thinking, oh, it might be Nick Frost, it might be Kenneth Branagh, it might be insert British actor here. You're never expecting John Hamm to be the villain. And like I had mentioned previously in the film's previous, villains have been around the same age as Sherlock Holmes, and it is a battle of intellectual minds. You would have John Hamm as Jack the Ripper, tearing up the night, killing prostitutes as they would. Tessa Thompson being one of those characters, and she would have a connection to Irene Adler, where she would also be somewhat of a potential love interest, and there is a tear. There's a conflict in Sherlock Holmes's mind. Is that does he pursue this new love interest in Tessa Thompson with the dark past that she's had, or do you go to somebody, or do you keep with your traditional Irene Adler, who's kind of like almost abused you to a sense time again. Jack the Ripper has been done before. I don't have the exact name. I do not have the exact story name of itself, but it is a villain that we have not seen in a while, and I think the name Jack the Ripper itself will draw a crowd in.
Okay, thank you, Brooklyn. And of course, just a little interlude here. Minus 10 points to Gryffindor, aka Jen, for completely missing my hometown girl, Rachel McAdams.
I love her. She just has terrible accents.
No. All joking aside. Okay, Jen, since you went second there, please let's hear your closing argument.
Sure. So, of these three, I think Kenneth Branagh is the person that would most be able to do justice to both the Sherlock Holmes canon and Guy Ritchie's franchise here with Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law. Because at the end of the day, the thing that made this franchise survive is Downey and Law. And I think Branagh would be able to bring that dialogue out, have an emotional connection between the two, as well as looking inward towards themselves as they're going into this investigation. And Brooklyn was talking about apparently Kenneth Branagh would of a director. Meanwhile, we have Matthew Vaughn blows up things like no tomorrow, and Edgar Wright is all about the flash and the bang. So I don't quite understand that argument, because we just saw in Murder on the Orient Express, he was able to have a confined space and make it feel both claustrophobic and sweeping. So he's really good at narrowing in on a tight plot. And when it comes to tight plots, The Speckled Man is a fantastic story. I didn't go into all the details. I just wanted to give you a general outline of it. But basically, these are actors that will do justice to the material. They all would understand it. They all have very familiar backgrounds in their own filmography that I think would make them be excited to sign on to something like this. Because when you look at Edgar Wright, he's a modern director that likes doing original work. He's never done anything that he hasn't written himself.
Cough,
So I don't know
Ant-Man,
why he would
cough. He
sign
was
on for
supposed to do
this.
Ant-Man, cough.
He was forced to do Ant-Man and he signed off. So that's nothing. So that didn't happen. So it doesn't count. And Matthew Vaughn, this even more like the second movie, it went off the rails because it wanted to be more phenomenal action sequences, and Matthew Vaughn would just go further and further off into the wrong direction because we need to get it back online. These are characters, beloved characters that have backgrounds, and you can go back to the source material and pull from there and get another fantastic movie, a fantastic mystery, one that is interesting and intricate and mysterious, and it would just be a more interesting ride to see. But we also can have some action because Kenneth Branagh, he can do action surprisingly. I still am amazed that he went from Shakespeare to Thor, so he can still do action, he can do mystery, he can do it all.
Okay, thank you, Jen. And now, Matt, let's hear your closing argument.
Okay. I want to make something clear. Just because something's been done multiple times does not mean it's bad. We've seen many remakes of remakes that have ended up being great. Scarface is a remake. That's better than the original. We've had The Departed, better than the original. And we're going to get remakes for Scarface stuff. So just because it's a similar story and, it's been done before, they could add their own spin and it can make it feel like it's a little different. Now, directors. Kenneth Branagh did Murder on Orient Express, which is probably one of his closer, types of movies to the Sherlock Holmes movies, at least in a long time. And Murder on the Orient Express was not good. It wasn't handled very well at all. It's not bad, but it just wasn't done that great at all. Edgar Wright does not fit the Sherlock Holmes thing. It's completely different. It would be, it'd be kind of like a Baby Driver and something like that, and that does not fit in Sherlock Holmes. Matthew Vaughn has proven that he can direct movies that are in different franchises and make it feel similar, and he can also do his own spin to it. Let's look at X-Men First Class. That's not a bunch of boom, 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 boom until the third, the final fight. Then you get the explosions. But he's able to tell a more grounded story and be able to create great characters and at least give them their origins or continue their stories. He's been able to prove that before. Now, if we look at the cast, it's clear my cast is the best cast by far. We have Margot Robbie, who did not overshadow a lot of her movies that she's in. Leonardo DiCaprio would not be in the movie a whole lot. He would be in it for 20 to 25 minutes, but he would play a villain. We've seen what he's done in Django Unchained. He's fantastic in that movie. He could bring something different to the world. Also, obviously, Sherlock Holmes is going to have Robert Downey Jr., it's going to have Jude Law, and they're going to be great in the movie because they're great actors. And then with The Hounds of Baskerville, it fits more as far as a third movie compared to their movies because this one starts off with everybody thinking he's dead, he's alive. This will give you a lot of opportunities to have twists and turns in this movie. You could even kind of change it up a little bit. And Dylan O'Brien could be a new character, which could spawn his own trilogy outside of the Sherlock Holmes movies once Robert Downey Jr. is like, I'm done. I don't want to do Sherlock anymore. Whether that's another movie 2 or 3 down the line. So that's my pitch. There you go.
Okay.
Boom.
Thank you, everyone. When it came to this, Brooklyn, Matt and Jen did attack you. Unfortunately, on round 1, you weren't able to come back with the best, a lot of best defense for a lot of stuff, and they were talking about how Edgar Wright should probably not the best fit. When just thinking of before looking at the questions and thinking of what I'd choose before I saw your answers. I can't. There's one there that I really did think that would be a good fit, just because I'll get into that a bit later. But Edgar Wright just wasn't, and it just you didn't really go into too much detail. Granted, Jack the Ripper is a very common story, but it just you didn't go into. There's just not too much really known that you were able to describe with your film. So fortunately, I have to take you out of this one. Definitely came down to Matt and Jen. Hey, when it comes to your directors, unfortunately, Jen, you did focus a lot on Kenneth Branagh and the story, but and your actors wasn't a. It didn't sound like they were too big of a selling point for you, but like story and director, which I can definitely see this type of movie happening. And Matt, with Matthew Vaughn, if you're going for a trilogy and with a new director, but trying to keep it relatively in the same aspect, like you would think that Matthew Vaughn, yeah, and you did bring this up, how Matthew Vaughn would be a good fit for what the other two movies were like. I and he does seem like you could be viable for to be the third film in the trilogy, and it would fit really well in. But as Jen was saying, like your story has been done a lot. Your cast is good. But it's just like with Jen, your cast is also good, but it's just like it's also relatively of a story that we're not exactly too familiar with, and
Which is
just
good for a mystery.
yeah, no. I didn't say that was a negative. I didn't say that was a negative. But I'm just weighing the arguments that you guys each had, and just because it's definitely a tough one. I'm probably going to have to go with just because like you're not looking to really separate yourself from the franchise. Really, you wanted to fit in. And I think Matt's done a better job of describing why Matthew Vaughn would be able to go in with the other two movies, the Game of Shadows and the first Sherlock Holmes film. I think that I think he did the best for that to fit. For if it was kind of like a relatively standalone, or maybe like you're trying to spin off and trying to recreate, yours will be a better option. But for the to fit in with the trilogy, I'm going to have to go with Matt on this one.
I'm trying to fix it. He's just trying to let it spiral away.
Yeah. I also didn't take half an hour in my opening pitch. Had I known that was a thing, I would have actually gone into my film.
Yeah.
Not waste.
I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah,
I was
you
into
guys,
the conversation.
edit this out, but do you want me to stick with opening and closing for 3 minutes each? Because you guys were talking for a while there.
That's fine. This one,
Yeah, the pitch ones
yeah.
are always longer. They are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know it was just
That's
like
why I don't like them.
in my head. I'm like, you guys are going on too long, but like But yeah, I'm gonna have to give round two to Matt on that one. It was really close, really close. They're just unfortunately Brooklyn. Not too much. There wasn't too much known with your film there. Okay. Question three. Okay. Question three, and easy, relatively easy one, and one that I'm going to be really excited to hear your options and what and for this one here. Best animated sequel. I've got my own very strong opinion on this stuff. I love animated films, so woo me, wow me, get me to hate the other options. Let's start with Jen. Would you like to go first or defer?
Sure, I will go first on this one because my God, this one. All right.
I figured you would. I know you're like me and love animated films.
Okay. Am I good to go? Good to go?
Yeah.
All right. So for my choice for best animated sequel, I chose the only film that, in my mind, of the three that you're going to hear about, this is the only one that I consider to be better than the original, and that is American Tail. Vail Goes West. Now, this is a natural progression of the story because the first one was all about the American dream. The American dream was come to America. But when you get here, you realize it's not so great. But the American dream, the natural progression is go west, my son. It's go out west because it's always this chasing these empty promises, which is a very interesting existential property to go into for an animated movie. That's neither here nor there. But anyway, this is a film that is adventurous. It is funny. It is fun. There is excellent music in it. A lot of people remember the really annoying "Somewhere Out There" song from the first film and how it had really terrible child actors singing it. Well, this one actually has ones that are good singers. So there's lots of songs in this. And it not only brings back the classic Dom DeLuise's cat friend, Fievel and Tiger, in their little buddy cop kind of thing. We have newcomers to the franchise, John Cleese as the excellent villain, Mr. Caterwaul, which is a fun little vocab words for kids to learn. But he is a really entertaining villain. He's a Monty Python background. But he's got this like evil flair to him where he actually has emotions as well, which is kind of deep for one of these kind of. This might even have been straight to video. I don't remember. I don't think it was, but it has that kind of feel to it because people just kind of write it off. But it's actually a very interesting story. There are several plot lines going on. We have Fievel coming into his own as a man kind of thing. He's also pursuing his hero, which is Wiley Burp, kind of a play off the Wyatt Earp, and that is played by the incomparable Jimmy Stewart in his final film role. And it's actually not a bad one to go out on, considering some great legends have gone out on really, really crappy movies. But we have Tiger has a love interest now, and it's a very interesting romance as he's caught in this love triangle with Caterwaul as well. And meanwhile, we have Wiley Burp, who is he is just this icon of all Western filmography of this kind of old lone gun kind of high noon persona that is phasing out into the sunset. So it is a fascinating film. It's a lot of fun. It is more interesting than the first one. There are less annoying characters, and it's more focused on the humor, but it also has a lot of emotional heart when it comes to getting Jimmy Stewart in your movie. And I will close my opening argument with Jimmy Stewart's last line of the film. One man's sunset is another man's dawn. I don't know what's out there beyond those hills, but if you ride out yonder, head up, eyes steady, heart open, I think one day you'll find that you're the hero that you're looking for. That is an excellent line for a children's movie that could have easily been direct to DVD, but it wasn't. I think it was directed in theaters, and it is a fun ride. It is a forgotten gem of Don Bluth. All right.
And for a final line of that was a very long line. Like
it's a speech.
I know. I'm just messing with you. Okay. Okay. Thank you for that, Jen. Okay. Brooklyn, since you went first that time, I'm going to ask Matt, would you like to defer or go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
All right. So because Brooklyn complained about my last one being so long, I'll just keep it short and simple. The best animated sequel is How to Train Your Dragon 2. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Nice.
I'll get into my reasons after.
Nice, short and simple.
Short, sweet, to the point.
Okay, Brooklyn. Well, since that, okay, now let's hear your.
I already know I'm losing here. While my opponent has gone off of a sequel cash grab, which is essentially the same story but just shifted over 1,000 kilometers west, and my other opponent Matt Beer takes on a film that is even forgotten within its own franchise and within its own studio, DreamWorks Animation. I've gone on with the granddaddy of animation sequels, and that is the greatest, Toy Story 2. This is a great continuation of the original movie, or the original movie itself. One that is better than the original by a mile in terms of visual effects, animation, and storyline itself. Andy goes off to summer camp, and the toys are there by themselves. Woody is eventually captured by Al, who's played by Wayne Knight, who has a great kind of cameo-ish role. Then you have Buzz and the gang that are going to try and get him, but he is eventually taken off to this collection where we get to meet the rest of Woody's kind of origin, and you're introduced to characters like Jesse, who was played with the great Joan Cusack, Stinky Pete, who was played by one of the best actors in general, and Kelsey Grammer, who has such a great gravitas in his films. And then you also are introduced to his arch nemesis / father, which is kind of a spoof on Empire Strikes Back, and the evil Emperor Zurg. And then in terms of actors who ended on the film, this is actually Jim Varney's final performance. He is known, of course, as the Great Ernest.
Thank you with that. Okay. The middle part of round 3 and 5, 4, you guys will each get 5 minutes to debate. 3, 2, 1, start.
I take offense at my film being described as the complete same thing over again, 500 Miles West, because it is completely different. The first one is all about finding one's family again and that family collective. Bible is like on his own for like this entire film. It's completely different. It's more focused on the sister and her dreams and everything. It's about Fievel and Wiley Burp. It's personas. It's not the same thing at all. Toy Story 2 is the same thing. It's the same. It's fun. It's a fun movie. It's funny. But the first one has all the heart. The second one is just played more for gags and for jokes. If you pick the third one, you'd have a little more of an argument. But the second one, it's just kind of fun. The only thing that's really emotional in it is Jessie and her song. But however, my movie also has many songs that have just the same level of emotions as that does. It's just because it hasn't been shown every day on Disney Channel, you don't remember it as well. But meanwhile, How to Train Your Dragon 2, yeah, it's fine, it's pretty. But How to Train Your Dragon 1, it is the same thing. We've just been kind of retreading the same characters again. It's all about just accepting dragons, and I think they already did that, so I don't know.
It's not about accepting dragons because the dragons were already accepted. It was kind of about protecting the dragons. It was introducing a whole bunch of new dragons, like when you have
it's about protecting the dragons that were already protected in the first film.
Also, the action in the movie is by far the best in any animated film. That whole war scene where you have, I believe, what's his freaking name? The villain. Is the actor who plays him? It's really
Can you please tell us like your villain, your cast? Jen, you brought up how Toy Story was the more heartfelt film and the better film. Have you seen that film in terms of like how it's aged and how the graphics have just been kind of meh?
That's graphic.
And how Sid is a very one-dimensional character. And then when Toy Story 2,
Al McWiggin just wants money. That's all he wants. The same thing.
Toy Story 2, what it successfully does, it has a zipper-esque storyline where they start here kind of together, they kind of separate, and then they come back together in that plane.
Sounds similar.
In that plane scene, and how it is one of the great quote unquote
just like in Toy Story 1 where they
separate and then they come back together at the end.
Do they encounter separate villains though? Do we get to explore?
Do they in Toy Story 2? Because they don't.
Yes, they do. They in Toy Story 2 they go into Woody's origin, how he was part of this set, and you're introduced to characters like Jessie and like Stinky Pete, and how Stinky Pete is like your friend. But he is turned into a villain. Also, without Toy Story, without the moments of Toy Story 2 and the character development that we get in this, we don't get Toy Story 3. So Toy Story 2,
we would still get Toy Story 3. It would be different, but we would still get it because you can literally have the worst animated movie of all time in Toy Story 2. It's going to make a bunch of money, and then we
wouldn't have Cars 2. We wouldn't have Cars 3. We wouldn't have Monsters University. Toy Story 2 started off Pixar on going, oh, we can just retread and we'll be good. And that's created all these songs because they haven't done any original content in a long time.
If Toy Story 2 is so much of a success that the company was continuing, like, you know what, Toy Story 2 was such success, like you guys have stated, then it's like, all right, well then let's try Cars 2, let's try Monsters Inc. Toy Story 2 was also one of Toy Story 2. So we're not talking about Cars 2. We're not talking about Monsters Inc. We're talking about the
But you're saying that
we're talking about the success of Toy Story 2, and because that film was so good, it doesn't matter that the other attempts have been to kind of not great. You always can go back to the first original.
I'm just saying there is a responspability there. It is a fun movie, but in terms of the best of all time, like it's surrounded by two superior movies in Story and Toy Story 3. So
my
I don't know.
film, my film is one of two Pixar films to have 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I look at your
Who cares
film
about
and
Rotten
Five Goes
Tomatoes?
West.
And here's the thing: for one, Rotten Tomatoes does not matter at all. We get a bunch of shitty movies that get positive ratings. So let's throw Rotten Tomatoes out there. It's not the end all be all. Two, here's a little fun fact for you: Toy Story 2 was originally going to be straight to DVD, and then they're like, "Oh, Toy Story 1 made some money. Let's release it in theaters." And man, you can tell that's a straight to DVD movie. Absolutely. And then with Five Goes West, I haven't hit on it very often, but Tiger is one of the most annoying characters I have ever experienced in my life. I watched it for the first time yesterday.
How dare you disgrace the name of Dom DeLuise? He is a comedy legend.
I can't enter in that last defense into the record book there because that was after, but yeah. Okay. 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 That Jen, you went first that time, so
Oh
you
yeah,
can
closing.
closing arguments right now. So in 3, 2, 1, please start.
So Five Goes West is the only one of these films that is much better than the original. It is far different. It is a much more intricate plot. It has more emotional beats to it. Roadhouse, when you bring in Jimmy Stewart in this classic Western frame, and meanwhile Toy Story 2, it's just not up to snuff to the other Pixar films that are around it. Not even just Toy Story and Toy Story 3, but the other Pixar films in the canon. How to Train Your Dragon 2, the studio itself doesn't believe in it. It took that long to create a sequel. They just don't know what to do, because once you say the dragons are our friends, where do you go forward from here? The end of How to Train Your Dragon was dragons are good, and How to Train Your Dragon 2, the message of that film is dragons are good. So yes, it's prettier, but that's just kind of natural progression of CGI. So that's not really an argument here or there. Technology advances as time goes, so I don't know where we go from there. But Vail Goes West, it's hand drawn. Hand drawn rarely goes out of style. It looks fantastic. It's funny. It's fun. It's an adventure that kids and adults can enjoy. There's something for everyone. I highly recommend that you go rewatch it, because I feel like a lot of people don't give it credit where credit is due, because American Tail, a little boring. Vail Goes West, a lot of fun.
Okay, thank you, Jen. And I would also like to say, when I first got Five Goes West, I believe it was 1990 or 91, and I got that from McDonald's, the same time I got the first Land Before Time film. So really good memories there. Okay, Matt, since you went second, it's your turn for your closing arguments.
All right, and you know what? This is the first time it's happened in this match. Jen, I actually agree with you on something. Animated that's drawn rarely goes out of style. However, it went out of style with this movie. The animation, unlike other hand-drawn animated movies, you could tell that it's older. You could tell that it just hasn't aged well. The story isn't really that great. It's boring at times. It's not bad. I'm not going to say it's a bad movie, but it's a little boring. Jimmy Stewart's nice to see, but that really doesn't do much for the movie at all, since he has like little to no involvement in the movie at all. It was basically just him taking a paycheck. Yeah, I'll take that. Give me some money. I'm going to retire. And then Tiger, like I said before, is one of the most annoying characters. I like the actor, but the character in the movie is super annoying. I don't really want to watch it again, mostly for that character alone. And then with Toy Story 2, like I said, it was originally going to be straight to DVD, but then they're like, you know what, let's make a quick buck. Let's release it in theaters. You know, people don't like it, whatever. We still made some money. And, you know, obviously made some money, which resulted in Toy Story 3, but bad movies also make money. You could tell Toy Story 2 does feel like a straight-to-DVD movie, 100% without a doubt. It's the same movie, basically, as as the first Toy Story. It doesn't do anything new at all. That's heartbreaking, because I like the first Toy Story. I want something new. Didn't do it in this. But with How to Train Your Dragon 2, it expands on the lore. It expands on the arcs that were set from the first one. We get this story about a boy who has to grow up and be a man and has to protect his village, in a sense, because Gerard Butler, spoiler alert, dies in the movie. So now Hiccup has to take over and become the leader. And the whole action, like the war stuff, is fantastic. And when you see Gerard Butler die in a movie, it's heartbreaking. It's emotional. You don't get that very often with animated movies, where a character dies and it's like like I don't cry in movies. I was borderline tears on that scene. And then they had the beautiful scene where they sent him off to, like they do in Viking tradition. And then Hiccup realizes, okay, now I got to step up. The villain is great. I believe it's Drago, or I don't know, but he's this big guy. I can't pronounce the actor's name at all. I don't know if a lot of people can,
Jimon
but
Hansu.
there you go. Thank you. Yeah, Drago, however you want to say his name. That's what it says on IMDb. He is a terrifying villain. He makes you feel fear. The villains at first that were in there that were against Toothless and all of them and Hiccup that were trying to capture dragons, they were like terrified of this villain. You feel the fear. It doesn't happen with animated movies very often. It's a beautifully told story. Kate Blanchett, it's something new. We get the son meeting his mom for the first time thing. There's a lot of new things with this movie. Five O Goes West has some new things, but it does kind of feel similar to the first one. My film is the most different. It is by far better than the original. And how dare you say the studio tried to push How to Train Your Dragon 2 away? We're getting How to Train Your Dragon 3 next year.
And
Animated
How long
sequels
that
take
take?
a long time.
Stop.
That was it, though.
Yeah, that was much. Okay, Brooklyn. Let's hear your closing arguments.
So my opponent in Jen is essentially rehashing the same film that is considered a classic in the '80s, but just adding star power and focusing so heavy on Jimmy Stewart in the final performance, just as more so of a cash grab. My opponent said it themselves. Without Toy Story 2, we don't get Pixar's initiative and that push to do more sequels. Yes, those films did happen, but we can always go back to Toy Story 2. This is also not comparing it to the other Pixar films. The question was best animated sequel, and to go from Toy Story to the rise of Toy Story 2, and you introduce these great villains in Stinky Pete, in Emperor Zurg, where it is something for kids and for adults. There are spoof elements here. When Emperor Zurg announces to Buzz Lightyear, "I am your father," and Buzz Lightyear falls, that is definitely a take on Empire Strikes Back. So it is something in there for the adults to laugh at. And when you rewatch as an adult, it is something funny. How to Train Your Dragon 2 is a forgettable film within the studio itself. When you think of DreamWorks Animation, you think of Shrek and Kung Fu Panda and whatnot. Also, because of Toy Story 2's existence, we don't. If that film doesn't exist, we don't get Best Animated Feature. It was a film like Toy Story 2 that we now have the Oscar category of Best Animated Feature. It is that good.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, once again, another good debate, good argument. So, one thing that really, just like the question at hand was best animated sequel. Unfortunately, for the majority of the middle part, a lot of it was off topic, talking about legacy of like, especially with the legacy of what it comes to Toy Story. Like, so that actually took away a lot of your debating time. But and Matt, you really started coming in with defending How to Train Your Dragon at the end of your closing arguments there. So fortunately, you were able to say a lot, but like I just can't do that just because like a lot of it was the last minute in Brooklyn. Like I said, there was a lot of Toy Story 2 is you were able to talk about a lot about Toy Story 2. But like unfortunately a lot of time was spent debating the off topicness of the legacy, which I don't know if you can really can have that be part of the best animated sequel when that question itself sounds like you're specifically talking about the film, and the legacy doesn't really matter too much there. Jen, you were able to come in really strong at the beginning of the middle part of round three there, and you talked about the cast, you talked about the legacy, and how it is a different story where as much as I don't want to say, there's a lot of similarities with How to Train Your Dragon and Toy Story 2. But when it comes to American Tail and Five Goes West, they are two, for the most part, two different films. So it just like when you're going with that, there, I'm going to have to go with Jen on this one for cast.
It's ridiculous.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh man.
I
For the record, I picked those two first, and they were already chosen.
I also knew I was going to lose because Harley hates Toy Story 2. So
I don't hate. It's actually my second favorite out of the two.
I knew I was losing, so it's like, what's the point?
And it's hard to. It just like
Seriously though, there's so much plot in Five Goes West. I was so mad when Brooklyn started saying there's no plot. I was like, there's so much plot compared to Toy Story 2.
Like that's. I know. I'm going to have to stick with Jen on. I'm not going to let you guys influence. As much as I love your, like, out of these three movies, How to Train Your Dragon 2 is my favorite. I love
That's
that.
the right choice.
Me too.
There's so much talk. Jen talked.
Move on.
There was more talked about the American Goes West than the legacy.
Which is what this is about. It's about the arguments. It's not about the choices. It's about the arguments.
Yeah, and it was just like too much off topic with the other two films. Okay.
How was I?
Sorry.
I am very curious about that choosing.
It just
and then my opponents were like, oh, that's the exact same thing as Toy Story. So
okay. Question 4: most underrated Marvel movie. And Jen, since you still got another option to go first, if you like choose.
No, I'll go first on the last one.
Okay.
Not this one.
Yeah. Matt, would you like to go first on underrated Marvel film?
I'll let Brooklyn go first.
Okay. Brooklyn, opening arguments, please, for underrated Marvel film.
Most underrated Marvel film by a mile is Matthew Vaughn's X-Men First Class. When you think of X-Men films, just X-Men films alone, you think of X-Men 2, Logan, and X-Men Days of Future Past. That's not even counting the MCU films and other Marvel films that we have. X-Men First Class is a great stepping stone in the new trilogy that we got. With the exception of the villain and X-Men Apocalypse, that would have been the greatest trilogy in comic book history. And I think it is because X-Men Days of Future Past overshadows First Class. First Class has a great introduction of characters like Professor X, played by James McAvoy, Magneto in Michael Fassbender, Beast has a great interpretation of Nicholas Hoult. You see great characters like Darwin, Kevin Bacon as Sebastian Stan, January Jones as well. And it's a great, refreshing stepping stone into what could have been a very dead X-Men franchise.
Thank you, Brooklyn. Okay, Jen, would you like to go next or defer to Matt?
Sure, I'll go.
Okay.
Okay, so for my choice, I picked Thor, and that is Thor. It's because he is the hardest Marvel character to really connect with the audience. He has what I like to call the Superman problem of he is just way too powerful, and he also is like this uber nerdy character when you have to look through all this Norse mythology to really make sense of it. However, once again, Kenneth Branagh, my guy apparently today, he came in and he found the humanity of this character and was able to build upon these core emotions between the two brothers, Loki and Thor, because it has this kind of Shakespearean feel, which he was really able to tap into in this film. And it has just the perfect casting of both Hemsworth and Hiddleston. And I feel like this kind of got lost in the shuffle because this was after Iron Man came onto the scene and it was huge. Like people, Thor is not a character that a lot of people really knew the backstory to. So it was something that you kind of go in and you're hesitant because all you really know of Thor, the character, is the goofy helmet and the hammer. So you're like, how can this possibly be something that is going to make sense on camera? But he somehow was able to bring it all down to earth and make it something that feels grounded. And then from there, Thor was able to really, without the success of Thor, we wouldn't have the success of the Avengers and to a greater extent the MCU universe as it stands right now. But for some reason, Thor itself kind of got brushed under the rug of, oh yeah, it was fine. But it's actually, I think it's one of the more interesting stories in the MCU universe because it has a lot of different mythology coming into it that is very separate from other characters. But yeah, we'll go into that stuff later.
Okay. Thank you, Jen. Okay, Matt, let's hear your option.
Okay, so when I think of the most underrated Marvel movie, I like to think the quality and what people respond to it as. And to me, especially after doing my MCU marathon, the most underrated Marvel movie, comic book movie, I forget how the question was worded already, is The Incredible Hulk. This is a movie, as far as the plot and the story, that's very different than what you get with other Marvel movies, DC movies. It's a very different thing, and it handles it very well. Edward Norton, it's a shame that he could not return as the Hulk in the Avengers and clearly Infinity War, because Mark Ruffalo sucked in Infinity War. I'm sorry, he's not good. But Edward Norton was amazing. We've seen what he's been able to do. He makes you to, like, the character in the movie is supposed to, he wants to get rid of his power. And we don't get that very often with comic book movies. I mean, Spider-Man 2 had it a little bit, but you don't really have that very often. And I feel like they handled that very well, especially when it's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be this because I know I'll kill people. And then you get Abomination in the third act, and he realizes, I have to do this now because if I don't do it, everybody's going to die. And it's this really cool arc that starts off with a man who doesn't want to do what he's doing to, I have to do it now. This is what I need to do to protect the woman I love and then everybody else as well. So The Incredible Hulk is my choice. And John Kemp is in the movie too. Fun fact.
Yeah.
I've not seen him yet, but he's in it.
I did not know that.
He's in there somewhere.
He's in the crowd because it was filmed in his hometown.
Oh, wait. It was filmed in his hometown?
Yeah, well, at least the third act is, or the big action scene
Big battle
that's
scene.
in Canada.
I did not know it was filmed in Hamilton. Huh.
Yeah,
Wow. God damn it.
the more you know.
Okay, that's besides the point, but thank you for your opening statements. Okay, 5 minutes for the middle parts. We'll start in 3, 2, 1. Start.
I want to
Okay,
say
first
that
I want to
your
go on
two films
Brooklyn.
are.
I really want to start with Brooklyn. Your movie is not underrated. A lot of people have it in their upper list of the X-Men movies. A lot of people love this movie. This movie, when it came out, people raved about it. And yeah, Logan is overshadowing it because it's the better movie. Yeah, X-Men 2 might be overshadowing it because it's the better movie. But just because there's other movies that are better does not mean
So what
other
you're
movies
trying
are
to say
below.
is that Incredible Hulk is better than films like Captain America: Winter Soldier, Captain America:
The
Civil
first
War,
Avenger.
Avengers, Infinity War, Iron Man 3, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well,
There are
arguing underrated. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
we're arguing underrated. I'm not
X-Men
arguing
First
but
Class,
there are so
it
many.
is
It's
a great film, and I think a lot of people have it on their number one. So it's a little hard. Like it was different from the franchise because it did have relative unknowns because Fassbender was on the rise there, but First Class also has a lot of problems.
But for me,
the female characters are trash in that film. They have 2-time Oscar winner Jennifer Lawrence is basically set dressing. So every single female character is just there for looks. It's not really a great moral compass in there, especially considering the greatness of X-Men and X2, how well they could treated Jean Grey. But meanwhile, Incredible Hulk, it's boring. The reason that Edward Norton didn't come back was because he was a jackass. Like, he could not, there's no way Edward Norton could actually mesh into the MCU.
Look, he is a jackass, I agree. He's a jackass, but that does not mean the movie's bad. The movie's really, really good. People are
really
good.
boring.
Good.
When you guys,
boring.
He spends the entire film trying not to become the thing that you went to see. It is a Hulk movie that doesn't want to Hulk out, and its villain is really, really like tacked on the end. of just, we don't know what we're doing here. We need something to fight the Hulk, so let's make Tim
And you
Roth
could
go
say the
super
same
soldier
thing
out of
with
nowhere.
Thor with that big giant metal creature thing. I mean, yeah, you get a little bit of Loki fighting him,
Because
but that's
Thor
just like
is
for a
more about
second.
the
That's more to set
character
up the next one.
connections. It's not about the classic clashing of things. When you get Hulk, Hulk can't talk, so he has to hit things. But Thor is all
He
about
said
his
Hulk smash.
relationship
That's a lie.
with Loki. He
He
said
does
Hulk
speak.
smash.
He
does-
did speak. That's a
He
lie.
does
He
say Hulk
says a
smash.
couple
When
words.
you
He
guys
says Betty and
mentioned-
Hulk smash.
When you guys mentioned, when you guys think about the concept of underrated films, you are talking about films that are good that are not talked about. Thor is not great, and it is definitely overshadowed by better films like Thor Ragnarok. Even I would say it's on the level of Thor the Dark World.
That's a lie, sir. That's a lie. I will defend that. I can't let anybody say that the Dark World is better.
I let you guys banter. I sat back here, and now I'm asking for my time to shine, please.
Okay, you can do that. I was just clearing that up for you.
I know. When you talk about X-Men First Class, you guys say it's a good film. I'm going from a good film that should be talked about a lot more. The two films that the two of you are trying to present are films that are meh, that are trying to be presented as these great films. But there are clear, more defined choices in the MCU, not just Marvel alone. You look at the Incredible Hulk. What aspects of Incredible Hulk have they carried, other than Thunderbolt Ross, who was really his own thing? Like Abomination doesn't die at the end of the film. How much have they referenced him in the MCU? And when you think about Thor and itself, the big thing about Thor is that his power is taken away from him, and when you're introduced into a new character like Thor, you want to see him with as much power as possible. And
which you did see in the beginning of the film in a fantastic action sequence, and then the rest of the film is grounding him so that you can make a human connection with him. Because if he's just you don't care about this character.
And then to put him up against a villain like Bifrost, who is essentially just a turret, essentially.
First of all, it's not him. It's his own demons. That the real villain of Thor is Thor. It is him conquering his own shortcomings.
What shortcomings does he have? He's the god of thunder. What shortcomings does he have?
The fact that you have to ask that means you didn't understand the movie. But Thor is all about coming into his own, because he thinks all he can do is hit things, and that's all he needs to do to become a king. He needs to learn humility. He needs to learn humanity. He needs to learn that he is not always the one that needs to be doing things. He needs to share out to others. He also needs to accept his father, which is a huge arc, not just in Thor, but in the entirety of the MCU. And if we didn't have the perfect casting of Hemsworth and Hiddleston under Kenneth Branagh's direction, bringing out those characters to life, we wouldn't have an arc to follow for the rest of the MCU. Because Loki, like him or not, he's kind of the apex of all the villains.
And stop.
Meanwhile, Abomination is attacked on Thing, and X-Men First Class, Kevin Bacon's barely in it.
Stop.
Essentially, you're basing it on legacy.
Okay. Thank you, you three. Now, Brooklyn, since you went first, let's have your closing arguments.
While my opponent in Jen is basing her film off of legacy and what the arc does in future films, and while Matt is essentially basing it off of Edward Norton's role, I guess, and how they're essentially trying to take math films into great. X-Men First Class, yes, is a good film. Does it get talked about enough? Hardly at all. Incredible Hulk and Thor are not films that are talked about as some of the greatest films for a reason. Not that good. X-Men First Class introduces a refreshing tale of characters like Professor X, Magneto. You have a great character in Darwin. Sebastian Stan's character, yes, he is there, but he is there as a pivot so that you can take Michael Fassbender's character of Magneto as a person who is still a friend of Professor X, but just has a different ideal in conflicts, and that is what a great chemistry between hero and villains are. People who have the same ideas, just different ways of how they want to go about it.
Now, can I clarify something? Did you just call Professor X? You said the actor was Sebastian Stan?
No, I said James.
I heard Sebastian Stan in there.
Sebastian Stan. I did say Sebastian Stan, but Sebastian Stan was just a character.
Okay, I was just making sure because that really threw me off.
Yeah,
I didn't bother to say Kevin Bacon as Sebastian Stan. I feel that was just kind of repetition.
Okay, I was gonna say I want to watch that movie.
Okay, Jen, let's hear your closing arguments.
All right. Just a side note, to call Darwin a great character, he has like 5 lines in the whole film. Okay, he's not a great character. They kill him off like nobody's business, just like they kill off every single female plot line in the entirety of X-Men First Class. But nevertheless, X-Men First Class is considered one of the better X-Men films. Like it really is. It's one of the top on all the of the 2000s, or whatever. It's always up the top. It launched Matthew Vaughn's career. It kind of launched Michael Fassbender's career because he wasn't really big at that point. And James McAvoy, everybody already knows James McAvoy, but Incredible Hulk it's just kind of bland. It's really a bland film. It's not willing to go the distance of what the audience was really looking for, and Edward Norton just created more problems than solving them. But meanwhile, Thor was the perfect connection of both the director and the actors, bringing a character to life that an audience didn't know. Everyone knew the Hulk, everyone knows X-Men because there's already 4 or 5 films at this point, but you didn't really know Thor unless you read the comics. You just knew him as kind of a goofy looking fake Superman for Marvel. But Kenneth Branagh brought Thor to life in this film. It is emotionally and action-wise and just shooting, it's a more interesting film to watch. It is beautiful. It has a fantastic cast. And yeah, you want to complain about the legacy argument, but it is a valid point. But I'm not just saying it's because of legacy. It's because I genuinely think Thor is one of the more underrated films, especially origin films, in the Marvel canon.
Okay, thank you, Jen, for that. Matt, let's hear your closing argument.
All right, I'm going to reiterate what I was saying, and I'm going to clarify a couple things because I don't know if my competitors completely got what I was saying. Let's start with Brooklyn with X-Men First Class. That movie is not underrated. A lot of people think it's either really good or they love that movie. The only reason why it's not number one on a lot of people's list is because you have Logan, which is a borderline masterpiece that came out. That's ahead of it. Also, X-Men 2, there's debate on whether that one's better than First Class or not. But First Class is far from underrated. I mean, it's completely far from it. You have a good movie. Now, with Thor, Thor's a pretty good movie, but we've seen that type of story many times before. Maybe not as much in comic books, but in other stories whatsoever. Chris Hemsworth is really good, and Thor is kind of interesting at times. But I mean, the villain in the movie, Loki, has a little bit in there, but the main villain who he fights in the end, it's kind of, it's just there. It's like a throwaway character. You're not going to see that character appear ever again. Obviously, Asgard is dead. But with the Incredible Hulk, when I'm saying underrated, I'm not saying it's underrated. It should be the best movie in the MCU. Best movie is still Winter Soldier and then Infinity War. I'm not saying it's better than those. What I'm saying is that it should be in the upper half. That's what I'm saying. Some people put it down towards like Iron Man 2 and Thor the Dark World, and it really shouldn't be. It's in the upper half. There's some pretty good Marvel movies, but this is a really good, interesting movie where you get a great performance from Edward Norton. It clearly does transfer to become like very important with some of the characters that are in there, like Thunderbolt Ross. There we go. Wonderful. He's a big player in the MCU right now, especially with Civil War coming out. If he wasn't around and if Incredible Hulk was not in the MCU, let's just say they threw that away, Civil War would not be as meaningful in a way because that really sets it up. He is the spine of the story, essentially, as far as setting it up. Incredible Hulk has a lot of great things in the movie. It's not the best MCU movie, but when we're talking underrated, this is by far the most underrated movie of the three.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Another close debate on this one. It's pretty tough. Like it's you guys defended your films. There was times where I was leaning one way, then the another, and going back another one. But like I'm going to have to take Matthew out first when it comes to Incredible Hulk, just because. Um, I guess it wasn't too clear. When it comes to Thor and First Class, no, really coming up with good reasons why your film is underrated, and I just don't think that was the best option, the best there. And it definitely comes down to First Class and Thor with the arguments. Like I'm really tossed because like you guys did like especially with this here for most of it, it just mad you were coming in at the end there with explanation for yours. But uh, when it comes to underrated, yeah, I'm probably it's such a toss up on this one here. You guys both debated really nicely on this, but I'm probably going to have to go with uh, just because like it's I don't think there is. It's just likely which one is actually considered underrated and actually can on a lot of the. I'm probably going to have to go with First Class on this one. Just Thor. Thor's not really forgot. It's really like as Brooklyn was saying, like it's still thought about. It's not really First Class is. It's when you think of the X-Men movies, it's not. There's it's kind of like middle of the pack when you think of them. And Brooklyn did
It's
a
my
good.
second favorite X-Men movie.
Yeah. No, like that's the thing with a lot of the X-Men movies. Like you can always be debatable. Like I'm just gonna have to go with Brooklyn on this one. So
Should have went with Iron Man 3.
I was debating Iron Man 3, and then I was like, a lot of people can easily shit on it.
I just like
Yeah, I almost tossed that in at the last second, but I was like, you know what,
Incredible
screw
Hulk.
it. They probably won't like it anyway.
I think I with the Incredible Hulk, like I have to be really good to go for underrated. It's just like with that, just like that. When it comes to you, it's always referred to as the very near and but yeah, I'm gonna go with Brooklyn with that one. So I take it Brooklyn advances to the speed round.
Yeah, he's in automatically right now, so he can either get this one just to get him closer to a win, or
Yeah.
he can kind of softball
Oh,
it. And,
Oh,
Brooklyn's
I'm sticking in here. Points to points.
all
okay.
right.
So okay, okay. Doing this. Okay, your last question. Best movie in the Halloween franchise, except the first one. Jen, since you still have the option of using your first one to go first.
Yeah, I'll go first. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so I chose Halloween 4, which is the return of Michael Myers, which, if you don't remember, because they're hard to remember, there's actually a lot of these, but this is the one that introduces the character of Jamie, which happens to be Michael Myers' niece. Now, what I really liked about this film is that it actually has a protagonist that you actually want to protect, and you're worried about her. In Halloween 1, Jamie Lee Curtis, yeah, she's the scream queen and everything, but she's actually not interacting with Michael Myers for a majority of the film. But when we get here to Halloween 4, this is all about Michael coming after the 8-year-old girl who is already being tormented by not only the image of him, because she knows of him in her mother's backstory, but she has lost her mother. So she's kind of a child that is lost in the world, trying to figure out who she is, but also being pursued by this massive killer that cannot be stopped. So it's easier one to root for, the people that you're actually wanting to not die. But meanwhile, there's also a lot of awesome deaths in this film, which is kind of the crux of this franchise as a whole. So there are some really gory deaths with a lot of Michael shoving his hand through people's faces, and it's amazing. But it's basically, it has the gore of the original and it has the feel of the original, while also becoming a little bit more emotionally complex because it has the connections between the characters of Michael isn't just a shape, he's a shape with a purpose. So he's driven, and it's almost like Terminator-esque in its plot here. But it's really interesting. I love the little girl in it. I want her to live, whereas Jamie Lee Curtis, I could go neither here nor there because it's kind of her fault in the first place. But there's plenty of teenagers to kill, and it's a great film.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Okay, Brooklyn, you went first the last time. So Matt, would you like to go first, or would you like to defer?
I'll go next.
Okay.
So look, before, I guess we'll say about a month ago when I got this question, the only Halloween movie I saw was the first Halloween. And at the time, I did not know your guys' answers. So I had to binge watch every Halloween movie. I went through hell and I came back with these movies. So to me, when I looked at the options, I assumed which one would be better, and I assumed correctly. Halloween 2 is the best Halloween movie that is not the first one, not the Rob Zombie one. Let's get that out of the way. We don't need that one. Let's not talk about it.
We're not even talking about those today.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about those things today, whatever they're called. But Halloween 2, to me, it feels like the original closer. It has more meaning to the franchise in a sense. It's not retconned, which is a big positive thing with this trilogy. It's the more grounded story. You connect to the characters more in a sense. You get more than one good character in a movie. Jamie Lee Curtis, I honestly think, gives her best performance in this movie rather than the first one, because I feel like she was kind of feeling for what she was doing, and I feel like in this one she had more experience, and obviously she didn't return after this one because she got more opportunities, which hence why she gave a better performance. So I went with Halloween 2.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Brooklyn, please give me your best Halloween film that's not number one.
Halloween H2O closes out the Jamie Lee Curtis story arc. It is a return to events 20 years previous. Jamie Lee Curtis has a son and Josh Hartnett, and they have a great chemistry and a great kind of subplot. But this is more so focused on Jamie Lee Curtis and how she has struggled with the events of the first Halloween, and how it's almost a PTSD-esque scenario where just every Halloween she's worried about what's going to happen. Is Michael going to come after and kill me? And you see this with the alcohol abuse and the drug abuse. And while it does have some great kills and a gory moment in particular, especially whenever Jamie Lee decapitates Michael at the end of the film, it does have some great depth and some great character development.
Okay, thank you. Okay, start your 5 minute hardcore debating. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
Okay, I have a lot of issues with Halloween 4, more than what I do with a lot of the Halloween movies. It's not the worst one for sure. There's some horrible garbage Halloween movies out there, but my problem with it is that this movie has to be carried by the little girl. If she's not good, the movie's not good. If she's good, the movie's good. And she's really bad in the movie. She does not give a good performance in the movie at all, which really does hurt Halloween 4. If they would have had an adult that was a little more experienced acting, then maybe you could have something. And then also they just kill off, Jamie Lee Curtis' character, Laurie Strode, or whatever her last name is, however you pronounce it. They kill her off screen. And she's a beloved character in the franchise, and there's a reason why she's coming back to the Halloween franchise after, which also proves that Halloween H2O does not close out her character story.
Yeah.
she comes
reason
back
she
in it.
comes back is because it's a cash grab. H2O has to do these amazing narrative gymnastics of she already died to bring her back 20 years later just because they know that the only way to revive this franchise is to bring back Jamie Lee Curtis. However, it's just kind of dumb. H2O is I don't even know where to go with that plot. But Halloween 2, it also does some really interesting plot things because they need to have a reason for Michael to be pursuing this one person in the first place. So all of a sudden they're like, let's make her his sister. Okay, so like that
Which
was
is
a
a
very
wow
interesting. Like, it's not a wow moment.
I mean, it's not
that
like
doesn't
Luke,
make
I'm
any
your
sense
father,
moment.
but still, I mean,
But
for the
that's
story that
that's
they're
what
pitching, you don't
that's
really
what
see
that's what
that
they're
coming
basing
out
it
at
off
all.
of.
So, I mean, I thought that was really neat.
Empire Strikes Back came out first though, and then
I think came out
for
either
Halloween
the same year or it's like a year
well,
off. So really, the story doesn't matter.
But what I'm trying to get to is Empire Strikes Back did it first. And so what they try to do the same thing. Oh, we'll have Michael be a family thing, which is okay, but it cheapens out the ending. With Halloween,
It really doesn't.
with Halloween 4, you're missing the character of Jamie Lee Curtis, and if you're trying to base the film off of this little girl, it's essentially hard. It's hard, especially whenever your villain, whenever your main baddie is a silent person himself, and doesn't really carry the narrative as more so just kind of brings the gore,
So
which
here's
has the film.
Here's the genius of Halloween 4, okay? When you cast a child to be the one that is being pursued in a horror movie, that allows for those don't go in there moments because she's a kid. She doesn't know any better. All these other films, when they're grown-ass adults and they're running upstairs and they can go out the window, it doesn't make any sense, and it has you shaking your fists of why can't this actually make sense? This is a child that is being pursued by a killer. It is terrifying. And meanwhile,
and I would feel the same too about that movie, but I mean, she doesn't give a good performance.
than when he comes back in this one, because at this point he is driven to mania having followed Michael Myers. So he has all of the weight from the previous films he's bringing to this and just driving everyone crazy. And then we also get the PTSD. We talked about that. There is so much PTSD in this movie, not only with Jamie, but with the entire town of Haddonfield. They have a lynch mob that goes out after Michael. Is this force that needs to be reckoned with, and they end up killing kids that had nothing to do with it. So there's a really interesting social commentary there. But meanwhile, Halloween 2, it's kind of forgettable. It wanted to do the same thing that happened in the first one, but it confines it to the one hospital. So you spend 2 hours running from room to room when you think this could have taken 10 minutes for Michael to walk in and kill Laurie, and that's it.
Which that actually offers or brings the opportunity to have some different, which it does. It's different. It has a different story in there. The other Halloween movies are just cash grabs. They're basically the same movie. And also, let's talk about the ending of Halloween 4. To me, this was my biggest
where they
gripe
try to
with the
make
movie. Where the little girl ends up killing her parents. It's like, really, this is stupid, and then they don't go back to it.
Yes, it mirrors the evil it mirrors the opening of the film of Michael's backstory. So it's creating this evil of like, oh, the evil is within you and everything too. So it's the nurture versus
they don't
nature
go back to it after, so it's kind of pointless. And it's
like
also retconned by H2O. H2O retconned 3, 4, 5, and whatever came out after 5 for H2O. And the new Halloween's also retconned H2O. I didn't get to talk very much last time. I'm going to talk. The new Halloween does retcon H2O, which does say something bad about the movie. It's not the worst Halloween movie. These aren't the worst Halloween movies. However, it's just a cash grab for Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, literally, they didn't have to have her character in there, and it would literally be the same stupid movie. The kids are dumb. It's just the same movie.
Stop. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Okay, Jen, closing arguments, please.
So Halloween 4, if you didn't root for the kid, I'm a little worried because that little child is being terrorized by a killer, and like I think instinctually someone should want to protect this poor little child. But other than her, there are other interesting characters. We have Dr. Loomis comes back and he's at the height of his form, and we also have Rachel, the stepsister. She comes in and she starts out as kind of a mirror of Lori. However, she is something completely different by the end because she turns into a bona fide badass. She is protecting her stepsister. She is fighting off Michael. She rams the devil with a truck basically to try to get him away. But Halloween 4, it has the tension that the first one did while not sacrificing weird plot choices of throwing random tidbits out to get Jamie Lee Curtis back in. But it's an interesting movie. It has heart to it. It has terror. It has fantastic gore. Someone gets stabbed with a shotgun. Who stabs people with shotguns? Michael Myers does.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Let's have some close
Okay.
argument.
Okay. I want to clarify something. I didn't get to finish it when I said that I didn't care about the little girl in Halloween 4. The reason why is because she gives a bad performance. Once again, this movie, Halloween 4 has to be carried by this little girl. And that's a bad decision because she clearly wasn't the right choice as a child actress because she's not good in the movie. She's pretty bad in the movie all around, which actually hurts the movie very bad. And it's also retconned by H2O, which all of the sequels but Halloween 2 are retconned by the new Halloween movie that's coming out later this year. We're not going to talk about that very often. I just want to bring that up. And then with H2O, it's a cash grab. Honestly, they probably offered Jamie Lee Curtis a ton of money because, like Jen said, they can't continue the franchise without her because it's just going to be repetitive. And guess what? This one's repetitive. It's the same thing. You got stupid kids and they go around. Jamie Lee Curtis is fine in the movie, but she doesn't give her best performance in the Halloween franchise in the sense. She gives her worst, actually. Her best performance is in Halloween 2. It's the most different of all the Halloween movies that have Jamie Lee Curtis, Mike Myers, and stuff in there. It's a grounded story. It's more of a character story. It does a really good job to get the good kills in there that you want. And also, John Carpenter is in it. And Deborah Hill, I believe that's how you say her name. I believe that's her name, or Deb Hill. They're both involved in this movie. They're not involved in any of the other ones. So that says something right there about the quality of this film. Halloween 2 is the far superior movie. That is not the first Halloween movie in this franchise.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Okay, Brooklyn, close argument, please.
All right, to fact check a point made by Matt, how John Carpenter isn't involved in my film. John Carpenter is a writer, while he does not direct the film. That is directed by Steve Miner, who has handled great sequels like Friday the 13th Part 2 and Friday the 13th Part 3. When you go to Halloween 4, there's got to be some sort of like concept and sort of like some common sense here. If a little girl was being kidnapped and chased by a murder, you would think that like the Guardians or whoever's watching after her would have a little bit more protection and some sort of sense of guarding. So right out of the gate, it has a flaw in terms of common sense.
They were killed.
But even still, the child should still have guardians and whatnot. Anyways, getting to Halloween 2, its ending is kind of is a cop out. It makes the movie relevant. It is confined to the hospital scene. And when you talk about Jamie Lee Curtis, this is being a cash grab. This is not a cash grab in the least. She wanted to come back and close out the arc that she had. This gives what very few horror movies have is depth in the character, and it gives layers when she suffers through the PTSD elements, when she suffers from alcohol and drug abuse, how she tries to have a relationship, but it's this constant haunting of Michael Myers, how it affects her everyday things, and then she's finally able to confront her fear essentially, and Michael Myers, and is able to close out that story quite nicely, and very fittingly how she has second thoughts about saving him, reaching the fingers out, but then takes the axe and fucking decapitates him, rolling his head. What a better way to kill off a character.
Okay, thank you. Okay. As someone who, when it comes to horror films, I guess one of the ways I could have taken this is if you would have convinced me that I'd need to hide under my bed for the longest time after watching it. That could have been one way that I would take it, I think. But also, one Halloween 4, it seems for the most part, really Michael Myers chasing a little girl who, from everything that I've heard, can't really act and isn't that doesn't which sounds doesn't come across that just because of bad acting. So with a lot of that, going to compare the Halloween 4. Halloween 2 seems like a lot of it was the return of Jamie Lee Curtis and killing off his character. And Halloween 2 seems like a lot of that is just Michael Myers chasing someone in a small hospital and just like kind of getting claustrophobic feel of the small hospital there. Hard to say on this one here. Probably going to have to take out Halloween H2O on this one, and I can't really. Unfortunately, the way you described it, Jen, Halloween 4 doesn't seem like it would be that interesting. It sounds like I would get over relatively quickly, but Halloween 2, I think I'd be more intrigued to actually watch that film. And yeah, no, full disclosure, I've only seen the first Halloween film. I'm not a horror person, so for that I do apologize. A little bit of the situation of a last minute judge. Um, but I'm going to have to go with Matt on this one just for interesting. And what I think would be what I think I'd have more. It'll be a better watch. Would be Michael Myers chasing, and you get the intense and the claustrophobic feel of him going through a hospital. And it just like that's and with Halloween 4, it just comes down to if if the little girl's somewhat of a main character and she can't act, it hurts. It's gotta hurt the film. So I'm going to have to go
How
with
dare you besmirch the girl that was in Last Boy Scout and don't tell mom the babysitter's dead? She's a good actress.
I'm sorry. Like I said, I've got no point of reference from the actual films themselves.
I've also haven't seen any one of the films in the franchise, nor do I ever plan to.
And
I
so
hate horror.
You son of a bitch.
I had to go with
Can you do
who
a summary?
I had
you look
I
up-
had to go with who.
Yeah, I looked up IMDb.
I'm sorry, I had to go with who convinced me to see their film the most.
Yeah.
I think I'm the only one that likes these movies, and Halloween 4 is the better movie.
Yeah. The one thing, like show wise, I noticed, Matt, there's a lot of background noise coming out of your end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go outside now because we are taking a break and it's not raining anymore. So praise the Lord on high. So yeah, it will only take a second. People,
So am I out?
Yeah, I think you are, Jen. Yeah, it's a Brooklyn match. Sorry.
Okay, should I log off? Can I log off?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, you can if you want.
And
yeah, because this was supposed to start at 6 and it's 9:30. Like I need to go.
True.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
All right. Well, good match. Good luck.
All right. Thank you.
And I apologize for my bad judging.
Go watch Halloween 4.
It's not a bad movie.
I hate horror. Hate horror.
I hate horror. I'll just watch Jason.
All right. Bye, guys.
Okay.
Cheers.
Okay.
I am heading outside still.
Matt, do you want to take a short break, and before we do speed round, or just go into the speed?
I mean, I just need to get outside and sit down, then we can get into it. I mean, that will only take a second.
Okay.
There's people playing cards around me, so I apologize for that. course, halfway through the match, they just decide, oh, let's play cards tonight
Yeah.
at Martin's supermarket, because that makes sense.
I'm just going to have a quick, like a couple puffs of a smoke.
You good? This will be a great way to have my intro and outro added now. I gotta be honest, I thought Jen would have at least beaten me.
I thought Jen was winning the Halloween one.
I'm sorry. Like,
Me too.
Oh, it's fine.
I was when Matt was asking for or like with a host, like I thought I'd be like the third person on a third person panel.
Oh, okay.
Right.
First
No,
time-
I mean it's usually like if we do triple threats, we usually still have one person judge. You know, that's just how we've done it. I mean, if Jeremy would have made it, I mean, you know, I'd be cool with that too.
my first time, and
It would have been.
I was a.
I hate the 3-man format because it's very hard to get equal debate time.
Right.
Where
Yeah,
like you have to almost hog. You have to hog the time pretty well and just kind of speak to you for a little bit.
And it sucks
Right.
with the final question there because like I had to go by which one did you guys want me to watch, make me want to watch the most, just because like I've only seen like the remake and the original Halloween film.
Right. No, but I am excited for the new Halloween though. And I'm not usually excited for horror movies, but Danny McBride being involved, that could be something cool. I am all set. Just gotta get my portable charger out and about.
Yeah, I think I think these speed round questions are decent though. So
That's fine.
okay. So and how does this speed round work?
So whoever answers first goes first.
Yep.
They'll have 30 seconds to explain why they chose their answer, and then the next person will do the same, and then we go back to the person who went first, and they'll do a 15-second closing, and then the other person will do 15 seconds, and then you make a decision.
Okay.
So since we're at 2, we have to get 3 points in the speed round. So that way we get 5 points.
Okay. You guys. Oh wait, it's hot, but too much. Okay, are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, for who's ever edited this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Well, we're at the speed round with Brooklyn and Matt. Okay, your first question in the speed round. You guys do know how it works. 15 seconds for the first person to answer, and then 30 seconds. No, sorry.
So 30 seconds and then 15 seconds.
Then 15. My bad. Yep.
You're good.
Okay. So your first question: what is the better film? What is the more enjoyable film? 21 or 22 Jump Street?
22 Jump Street.
Okay, Brooklyn had 22 first, so
I'm
gonna have to argue 21.
21. Okay, cool. Oh, I have to raise this closer now. Okay.
So Brooklyn in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
22 Jump Street takes the great elements of the 21 Jump Street and spoofs on them and riffs on them. It pokes fun at itself. It has great fourth wall breaks. You have the kids going to college, and you have these memorable scenes like the football cart and the van and whatnot. You have this new drug and hi-fi. You have this one of the great moments in the film whenever they find out that Channing Tatum is dating Ice Cube's daughter. Probably one of the more level moments.
Okay, Matt, 21 Jump Street now. Matt.
Okay, so with 21 Jump Street, you get the first time yeah, I guess they're interacting. Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum's character, they get to interact together. You get to see this bond form from just enemies to now best friends, and that's a lot of fun to watch. Plus, you get Brie Larson in the high school thing. It's really cool. And then plus 22 Jump Street is basically a ripoff of 21 Jump Street with a couple little things added in there. There's nothing really new in the movie. Ice Cube's better in there. He has more funny, witty dialogue in the movie. It's just a lot more funny all around because the jokes mean more.
Okay. And now, 15-second closer, Brooklyn.
21 Jump Street's characters feel super undeveloped. Yes, you do mention 21 Jump Street is a ripoff of the first one, but that is essentially what they're going for. They reference it so many times that they're doing the exact same thing, and it works. The humor works.
Stop. Matt, 15 seconds starting now.
Okay, so with 22 Jump Street, it's clearly taking a bunch of jokes like the fourth wall breaking, and it becomes old, it becomes stale. There's nothing really great involved. There's a couple of good ones, but really it's just like, look at this, look at this, look at this. 21 Jump Street has original jokes in there. It makes you laugh. The drug scene when they're getting high in front of the coach is great.
Okay.
And the drug is Wi-Fi, not hi-fi.
Unfortunately, you got that fact checking in after the round was done, so I can't.
Oh, I mean, I didn't think it would have any effect on the match. I just,
unfortunately, for like when it comes to me, I thought this was a good question because like both movies are. It's hard to debate which one's better. So,
yeah, definitely.
But Brooke, unfortunately, you tempted just to. You kept talking about 22 Jump Street, and you didn't really talk exactly too much about 21 Jump Street on that one, Matt. Brooklyn defended his movie and actually explained why it was better. Yes, it's a lot of the same of the first one, but you can debate that it did better as he did. But I'm going to have to give this one to Brooklyn on this one.
All right.
Okay, question number 2. Best Daniel Craig 007 film, Casino Royale or Skyfall?
Casino Royale.
Okay, so Matt got a Casino Royale. Brooklyn, you've got Skyfall. Matt, your 30 seconds starts in 3, 2, 1, start.
Okay, so Casino Royale had a very hard task to make people be convinced that Daniel Craig would be a great Bond, and he does that, and he does that in spades. You get the best Bond girl, you get the best villain there. It's a really cool story. It reboots this franchise and does a great job. It's a little bit before what the first James Bond was. It's just a great fun old time. Skyfall is it's fine. The story is decent, but it's nothing real special compared to Casino Royale. I mean, it's just an average movie. So is that 30 seconds?
Stop. Yep. Yeah, now it is.
Okay. I felt like it was a little longer. I was like,
no.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, when you were telling me that, I was like 9.5. Okay, Brooklyn. Why is Skyfall better?
This starts when I start talking, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just give me a couple seconds here. When you think about James Bond and James Bond movies, the first thing you go to is themes. Adele's Skyfall is one of the greatest James Bond themes ever. You have a great villain in Javier Bardem who takes elements from Jaw, and it creates an interesting story where Skyfall is the home of James Bond, something that we don't really tackle. In Casino Royale, the best scene of that is the poker scene. The villain in it is okay. Mads Mikkelsen is fine. Casino Royale is good, but not great like Skyfall is. It takes all the elements of James Bond, themes, villains, music, women.
And stop. Okay. Matt, your 15 seconds starts when you start talking.
Okay, a theme does not make a Bond movie better than another Bond movie. Mads Mikkelsen is a better villain than Javier Bardem is in Skyfall. He clearly is. The poker scene's fantastic. Get the better Bond girl. Daniel Craig gives his best performance in that movie as Bond. You get better action in the movie. It's a better story, has better dialogue. It's just an overall more well-crafted film.
Okay, Brooklyn, your 15 seconds starts when you start talking.
When you talk about James Bond themes in general, the theme is something that you always go back to. Adele has one of those memorable themes in Skyfall. Javier Bardem is definitely an exponentially better villain than Mads Mikkelsen. He is creepy. He has elements of Jaw, and it's just enough where it isn't a complete ripoff.
Okay. Also with that one there, Matt, you just kept saying that your film was better, and you fe- you somewhat talked about. I know no, this person's better than that person or the theme, and the younger you, you didn't really talk about why. You just kept saying that it is better, better without giving any explanation. Brooklyn, on the other hand, you did like you. The one thing when you're talking about the villains, you guys kept saying like it's better. This person's better than that, but Brooklyn, you were able to say that Javier Bodam as De Silva was creepier, and you were talking and you were able to explain why the theme was better. So I'm also gonna have to give you the point on this one too, just because you were able to explain instead of just saying that it is. You were able to explain why. Okay. Okay. Question number three. Ooh, this one's gonna be fun. Best first prequel in the film: Fantastic Beast or The Hobbit: The Unexpected Journey?
The
Oh
Hobbit.
God, Fantastic Beast.
Yeah, Brooklyn had The Hobbit.
Oh, I mean, it's just difficult with those two.
Yeah, I know that. I thought I was looking at my collection there, and I was like, "Oh, this one's gonna be fun." Okay, Brooklyn, your 30 seconds will start when you start talking.
The Hobbit is a continuation of the great Lord of the Rings trilogy. You have characters like Martin Freeman, Ian McKellen comes back as Gandalf, and it's a continuation, a bridging of the two. Fantastic Beasts is what's a prequel that's way too far back, that doesn't really connect the series. It's more so a one off thing where Eddie Redmayne's performance is not great, and it's one that it's kind of all over the place.
Okay, Matt, your 30 seconds will start when you start speaking.
All right, The Hobbit is one of the most boring movies I've ever seen in my life. It takes like an hour and a half just to get started. The dinner scene is so long, it just takes you out of the movie. It's a complete bore. But with Fantastic Beasts, you have a lot of fun. Eddie Redmayne really does a fun job with this movie. You get a lot of really cool characters that will introduce. And the only reason why the Hobbits even connect with The Lord of the Rings is Ian McKellen. And really, I mean, he's okay. I mean, he's not great in this movie compared to what he's been before, but Fantastic Beasts offers more for the saga.
Okay, stop. Okay, Brooklyn, your 15 seconds closing will start when you start talking.
Eddie Redmayne's performance is weird, borderline creepy. Fantastic Beasts is too separated from the Harry Potter franchise. It feels like its own kind of thing with like the hints of Harry Potter. Hobbit is one that's close enough.
Okay, Matt, same for you.
The Hobbit does everything that The Lord of the Rings did right, but wrong as far as this visuals, the CGI and stuff. That's what it relies on. Also, the amount of time between doesn't matter at all. Fantastic Beasts is a lot of fun. There's a great twist in the end with the villain that we thought was Colin Farrell, but ended up being Johnny Depp, which sets up the feature films and obviously the Harry Potter trilogy or franchise.
Okay, for this one here, basically, if you were to actually really think about it, the time difference is rough. Okay, it's there's like probably like a 10 year difference. In all honesty, when it comes to the time difference, it's like The Hobbit takes place like what is it?
I think it's like
70 years before, and I think Fantastic Beast is roughly about 80
I think
before.
it's 75.
Okay.
If I'm guessing wrong, right? But I mean, we're right around the ball.
Yeah, but it just Brooklyn, you talked about the characters, but and it being a continuation, yes, it's a continuation. That's why it's a prequel. Matt, you were able to talk about why it is a better film and what it under the potential for it to lead up to. and you were able to give more reasons why for that one there. So I'll give you the point on that one, which brings it 4-3.
All right, all right.
Okay. Now question number 3. No, sorry, 4. 4.
Yeah.
Um. Oh, this one. Best on the topic of what we were doing in Full Metal 5 recently. Best Disney animated film in the last 5 years.
Oh God. You said animated?
Zootopia.
Zootopia, okay,
Yeah.
for Brooklyn. And Matt,
There's a couple good ones. You know what? I'm trying to think of when it came out.
5.
Uh, Wreck-It Ralph. Did that come
I
out 5 years?
I want to challenge that.
Yeah,
I mean, if it came, I don't know if it did or not. I was just asking if that did. If it did, it's my choice. If not, I got another one.
I think it came out in 2010.
Did it really? Wow.
I can check it real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have another one backed up just in case, but I mean, if that one came out in the last 5 years, I'll go with that.
2012. Yeah, no.
It didn't?
6 years ago.
Okay. Nah, just barely missed it. Big Hero 6.
Okay, Big Hero 6 versus Zootopia. Brooklyn, since you answered first, your 30 seconds will start. Start talking.
Zootopia is a visually stunning film, and it tells a great story about an underdog and the rabbit who is looking to become a police officer. That is her dream, but she is constantly being held back as a parking ticket officer, essentially. And then she breaks the mold. She goes across. And she goes past her duty of line to investigate in this murder. There's a great score by Michael Giacchino. You have a great supporting cast in the Fox. J.K. Simmons plays a great Lionheart.
Okay, Matt, your 30 seconds will start when you start talking.
Okay, what Big Hero 6 does, it creates this really wonderful universe of Tokyo, Francisco, or whatever. You get introduced to these fantastic characters that have to form up in a team that are very different. It handles different types of characteristics very well. And also you get introduced to Baymax, which is one of the most beloved characters. However, Zootopia isn't what I want in a Disney animated movie. It's not really that well done as an overall film. The characters are fine. I like the Fox dude, but I mean that really isn't a lot to offer as far as a fun Disney animated film.
Okay, Brooklyn.
The community name that you're looking for in your film is San Francisco. Big Hero 6, the most memorable thing in that film is Baymax. He's just kind of a cute, lovable thing. In my film, you have great characters in the bunny. Jason Bateman as a sly, clever fox, which was a great casting choice. J.K. Simmons as this mayor Lionheart. That's a great twist.
Okay, Matt, your last 15 seconds will start.
Like I said, so Zootopia is fine. It doesn't have really interesting characters. However, with Big Hero 6, it has a heartbreaking story where a brother loses another brother. We find out the guy who was his mentor actually killed him and was the cause of his death. And then also Baymax and him have this like pet, like dog and human characteristic. And also you have this really emotional scene with him and Baymax doing stuff.
Okay, yeah, no, this was a really tough one here. You guys both really the similarities you guys came with definitely the odd couple feel with your two main characters. Matt, you mentioned your cast, but you didn't really go into like anything about them. Brooklyn, you did, and you're also able to talk about the score and how Zootopia was more of a visually appealing film, and this the looks, the aestheticness of it. But with Matt, you were able to talk. You were talking about the story, which it is a good, heartfelt story, and with I'm probably just because able to defend and talk about the film more, I'm going to have to go with Brooklyn on this one, just because.
All right.
Yeah, just because like he gave me more and he was able to defend his movie more. So with that, that gives Brooklyn the win.
All right.
Wow, did not think I was winning this match at all.
Like okay, just like off camera right here. I hope I didn't screw up too much when it comes to the judging. Like,
Oh no, you did a good job.
okay, thanks.
Oh yeah, no.
Like no, just my like I've said, I didn't think I'd be doing this by myself, and definitely a bit nervous and all that. But like, it was definitely fun. But like, hands off to the judges who judge this stuff. It's difficult.
Do we need to do post game interviews, or am I crazy?
Yeah, I'm not too sure how you guys do this, man.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm gonna cut the majority of this out. That way we can make it kind of feel more smooth since it is your first time.
No.
What
As an editor, I get it.
Right. But what we usually do is you'll first talk to Brooklyn. You'll ask him how it feels to win, and kind of ask him questions like
Yeah.
because his next match is against RJ Villarreal, right? Yeah. So RJ. So.
Oh, that's gonna be a talking match. Like you guys are not good. You guys are just gonna talk over each other. So
So that's usually what we do, and then you go to the person who lost, which was sadly me, and then you just kind of interview me. I might add a little something in it as just like a character piece.
So. Oh yeah. Okay. And back to the video itself. Brooklyn. Now, you were able to pull out the win there and become 2-0, causing Jen and Matt to both become 1-1. How are your thoughts on the match? How did you think you did? And just any general thoughts and opinions.
What did I say in the beginning? Atomic Nation was going to get the win, and it got the win. It definitely wasn't the smoothest of roads that I took. There were definitely some questions that I thought I had the lead in, but my opponents had some great debate topics. Hats off to Matt and to Jen, especially in great debates. I thought in the speed round, especially Matt. I thought Matt was going to come back there. He gained some steam on the what question was it? I can't even think about it now. I can think of every other question.
You're probably thinking Daniel, like the Daniel Craig.
Yeah, no, the one. It was the one after that.
Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, I thought he was gaining steam on that. I was like, shit, am I going to blow this lead? But yeah, I think my on the cuff debate skills and being able to break down my opponent's debating is what got me the win, and I am looking forward to whatever opponent I go up against next. But hats off to Matt and Jen. It was a great match.
Oh yeah, in case you're unfamiliar, the winner of this match is scheduled to face the Red Ranger, Renee Villarreal himself. What are your thoughts, and what do you expect to come out of that match?
That's going to be it's going to be a very loud match. But I wish nothing but the best. I think I believe we are two members of Atomic Nation, so it will be a win-win scenario. Somebody from Atomic Nation will be going on to contend for the belt eventually. Okay,
and now let's send it over to the unfortunate runner-up in this match, Matt. You performed pretty well on yourself there, but unfortunately, it wasn't enough to pull out the victory on this one. What are your thoughts, and how did you think you did in the match?
I'm disappointed, of course. I mean, I think anybody who loses can be disappointed, no matter what the field is. I don't know if it's a setting I was in, just because there's people walking around, or and it's mostly my head. I blew the game especially with a couple of the main rounds. Not the speed round, because I feel like Brooklyn, I mean, throughout the entire game, Brooklyn, you were on fire. But I feel like, especially with round one and then the Marvel one, I feel like I didn't put enough steam in. I should have, dove in a little more on the points I didn't win. Maybe the animated one, but yeah, I'm obviously very disappointed. It's on me. Obviously, I lost the game, and even if I played great, I mean, it would have came down to the scenario we were in right now anyway. Because, like I said, Brooklyn, you played one hell of a game, and I am very curious to see how well you do. But I'm not done. I'm gonna come in. There's some people I'm gonna be looking at in the future. I don't know who I'm gonna play quite yet. I have some people in mind to kind of get myself back in the groove. Maybe I should play Aaron Cannell. His record is the same as mine. We're both 500. He has one more win and one more loss than I do. So that'd be a fun admin match all around. But yeah, hats off to Brooklyn and Jen as well. Jen played a really good game. I got to go back to the drawing board. I need to get back to what I was my first win all around.
Oh yeah, thank you for that. Definitely not. That was definitely a fun triple threat match between Brooklyn, Matt, and Jen. But like now, just to close it off, Brooklyn, you got anything to plug?
Yeah, you can find me on Jukebox Trivia every Mondays as part of the WW the Worldwide Movie Games family. I go live every Monday, usually before or after you guys over Full Metal. You can also find me at Take Three. Friday nights, I do Late Night with Take Three, the podcast, just wrap back up. And then Saturdays, you can find me doing a playthrough of Donkey Kong 64 with Chris Clark on Family Game Night.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Where can people find you?
You can find me on this channel, obviously, with Movie Battleground and some of the other trivia leaks coming up very soon. Me and Linus have formed a team, so look out for our first match, as well as we're hoping to get it done, our very first live match, where it would be me and Linus going up against Robert and Zach. I can't say it's going to go great for them because we're so good, but you can catch me doing that, and then you can also catch me on my personal YouTube channel, That Movie Guy. That's where these matches go up on, because I'm going to be starting to put up some reviews and topics that are going to make a lot of people pissed off at me, and I don't care. I like controversy. Talking about that Star Wars fandom stuff coming up soon.
Yeah, I've definitely heard controversy creates cash. I wonder what famous Easy A or Easy E came up with that. But yeah, no, I'm Harley Borch. You can find me all over the place. Worldwide Movie Games, of course, Full Metal Media, where I'm a mainstay person there. Of course, Multiplex Entertainment, where I help run this sports and wrestling division. And Take Three, I love being on their family game night. Anywhere else, like you can say my name, I'm there usually. And of course, this has been Movie Battleground for Brooklyn, for Matt, for Jen. I'm Harley. Take care and see you next time.